deliberation, what they're learning throughout the whole semester. And then I was thinking, perhaps Alan could come in and support and give his perspective on what's going on about capitalism and how capitalism can transcend further. So I'm so grateful that we have led to this today, because most importantly, I feel that we're at a time of our life where the statistics are going higher and higher up there with regards to COVID, and everyone is just at a level where we need to figure out how to find some form of healing within ourselves in terms of what works and what doesn't work, personal level or professional level. So I'm grateful we're using this Sunday. Perhaps it's a way for us to just engage and have, in one way or another, it helps us in every different fronts of our life. So I'm so grateful for the presence, everyone. And I'd like to introduce actually today the presence of the participants here today, and also our speakers and discussants. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Prof. Spector. He's the Professor of Sociology of Global Studies at Purdue University Northwest. He has been quite active in discussing on sociology and global studies and the role of capitalism, and more importantly, how social movement and social innovation is a very important part of society. I'm also grateful we have here today Ryan and Amy Blair, both social entrepreneurs in their own right, and they have actually their personal and professional vocation looking out into helping the underprivileged, especially women society, and helping them to get to the employment, and importantly helping to nurture a sharing society, if you will. So thank you so much, Ryan and Amy. They're both from Batik Boutique. And then we have two groups of MBA scholars, one from the AG 627, the other one from ED 627. They're all budding MBA students who are graduating soon because they're doing a specialization or even completing an elective course in social enterprise. And they're here to present their own understanding of what is social innovation into the future, especially for sustainable cities. And the first group, it will be talking about digital literacy vis-a-vis aging society, and this next one is digital literacy vis-a-vis the youth empowerment, if you will. So thank you so much to both groups for coming in. I also want to say thank you to our guest today, Prof. Z, Dr. Z. He's from UUM. He's been he's been an advocate of on spiritual capitalism. But I might say, Dr. Z, you are actually an advocate of spiritual capitalism. That's how I see you. And I know Dr. Z since my PhD days. He was my supervisor. That was in the early 2000s. Thank you, Dr. Z, for coming in. Dr. Z is from UUM, professor in accounting there. Thank you so much, Dr. Z. We also have here our DBA student, Kat, graduating soon, known as, so hopefully I can call her Dr. Kathleen soon, very much indeed. She's been an advocate of a research team that actually helps us to reveal new knowledge about the role of women in leadership. So I think that has play a big role in how women can play a role in sharing economy itself. And we also have Kiato, who also our current DBA student from the research methodology program. And I hope this will also shine some ideas about what it means when we talk about business research, the importance of business research in a different context entirely. So thank you, Kiato. And we have here my sister-in-law, Lisa. Thank you for joining us. By the way, just to introduce everyone, Lisa is actually I can call her, she's also a social entrepreneur. Actually, she helps the social enterprise, the refugees actually, Myanmar refugees actually, to be back on their feet in employment. And actually, she's been a big advocate for civil empowerment among the refugees. So thank you so much, Lisa, for coming in. Last but not least, may I introduce to everyone the team here in USM that is supporting us today to help make this a success. So I don't know whether you can show the camera, maybe not.
Okay.
Can we? We have with us Rajay. Rajay is a PhD? Master students from CenPRIS-USM. So Rajay is our technical expert, technology specialist, who helps in all event management. So we are doing a collaboration with the Nusantara Archipelago CenPRIS, and he has always helped us in all event management. So thank you, Rajay. Say hi. Rajay, say hi to everyone. Thank you, Rajay. Hello. And we also have with us among the youngest in the group here also is a technology expert, my son, Shahrial, who's known for his expertise in video editing right now. So he's 11 years old. He's learning quite a lot, and the pandemic has allowed him to actually learn from home a lot more. So he's quite grilled to the computer and doesn't get away from it. So that's how we learn a lot about video editing. So say hi to Uncle Alan, Sharia. Say hi to Uncle Alan. And also Uncle Ryan and Auntie Amy. So we also have amongst our audience here the researchers from Nusantara Archipelago team. That is Muzakir here, and also Iko, and none other than the head of Nusantara research team, Dr. Rivani. He's an advocate for a lot of discussions on sharing economy in Indonesia. He's known for his stance on what it means to decolonize the mental structures that that we have in the Nusantara Archipelago actually. So thank you everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. So with that, I would like to introduce the event. The event today is entitled none other than it's a part of the Futures Thinking webinar series where among other things what we do here in USM is to look at different ways of understanding mental structures of and be able to actually debate and contest the different ways of thinking about the world we live in. And perhaps from an ivory tower such as this, I take advantage of doing a lot as much as I can on this. So from the Futures Thinking series, one of the things we do is look at futures literacy, looking at 20, 30 years down the road, what does it mean? How can society move forward from a different mental frame and anticipating something different, how we could make the kind of changes that we would like. So in that regards, this is where this particular event comes in. It's called Transcending Capitalism, Conversations on Social Innovation and Sharing Economy in Sustainable Cities of Nusantara and beyond. So it is very much about centered on the context of sustainable cities in 2030, especially in Penang. But I take note that the whole idea of sustainable cities is actually being propelled and propagated very much in Malaysia itself. And Putrajaya is doing quite a little bit on it. KL is doing quite a bit on what it means to have sustainable cities itself. So presence of Ryan and Amy would be very important for knowledge sharing and exchange of knowledge. So this is where the context of social innovation and the role of sharing economy where social enterprise comes in. And even more so, as we go into this event, I take note of the importance of us to understand what it means to decolonize any mental frames we think about what or how capitalism should work, how capitalism can be better, what is the role of society in healing ourselves as we move towards SDG 2030, Sustainable Development Goals 2030, and I'm very, very grateful for presence here today. I would like now to invite the first group, which is from the MBA specialization, MBA full-time MBA students, which is, and they will be discussing on digital literacy vis-a-vis the creative aging society. In this regard, the whole stance of social innovation, they will be linking it towards the role of social enterprise and possible new business model or collaborative frameworks that could come in. So thank you, and whenever you're ready, the first group, you could take over, and we hope everyone will enjoy the presentation and the discussion that will come forth after that. Thank you so much. So Cynthia, your group, Shafika, and everyone else, if you're ready,
Yes.
you can have the show. So
Okay.
take your time and let's enjoy and have a relaxing conversation together.
Okay, so hi, good morning. So doctor, I will start to share my screen now. A moment, just a moment. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yes. All right. So hi, a very good morning, everyone. And
You could zoom
first
in.
of,
Sorry, Ellisha.
yeah.
If whenever you want to discuss the group one study, you could zoom into the appropriate area so that we could see it. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Right.
So okay, thanks. Okay, so very good morning and good evening, everyone. So first of all, I would like to thank USM and also the organizer for this, for inviting us to this meeting, and also every one of you which have attended today. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself. So this is Lishan here, and follow with my group members, which is Chuha, Punita, and also Shafika, Renuka, and Reen, and also lastly, Cynthia. So we are the scholars from GSB MBA of AGE 627 Social Enterprise students. So today we'll present on the social enterprise project of digital literacy and creative aging social innovation for sustainable city Penang 2030. So without further ado, I will start off with the abstract. So to highlight the perspective of promoting social and digital literacy among target population of seniors and elderly groups in Penang of Sustainable Penang City 2030, our group have came out in conceptualization of the sustainable efforts and also social impacts as well as the proposed business model. So first, I would like to discuss on the introduction of Active 60. Active 60 is actually a Penang local social entrepreneur which aims to support and strengthen the participation of senior and elderly groups in Penang, which they provides through support and help through job employment and also to improve their social being. So followed by Golden 60, which is a business model that we proposed in this presentation, is we're aimed to promote social and digital literacy among target population, which is the seniors and elderly groups in Penang. So with this partnership, we are aimed to create a platform which collaborates both government and non-government sectors to identify and also to keep tracks of situations and status of seniors and elderly groups nationwide and also in the local community in Penang. So next, I'll pass it to Shafika to cover on the social mission part. So Shafika, would you like to take over?
Hi, everyone. Okay, so with the technology advancement and rapid digitalization, in order to achieve Penang Sustainable City 2030, senior citizens and elderly group face difficulty to adapt and adopt. Hence, Golden 60 and Active 60 will form a partnership which carries significant social mission with aim to, first, provide a digital learning platform for elderly and senior citizens to enhance their digital literacy so that they are aware of the current digital advancement in the market. Second, to pique senior citizens' interest in digital learning by building a community for elderly to share knowledge amongst them and as a social platform for them to socialize. And third, to anticipate job opportunity for senior citizens through collaboration with government and private sectors. Next, I will pass to my team members to talk about future wheels.
Thank you, Shafika. So this is Rin here. I'll be presenting on the Futures Wheel with my other two partners, Renika and Cynthia, who will be presenting shortly after me. Okay, so in this part of the presentation, we would like to walk you through how we arrive at our social mission that is presented by Shafika just now. And as we all know, a sustainable city is an innovative city that makes use of smart technologies to improve the quality of life of its residents across all social groups and strives to increase the efficiency of its urban operation and services, as well as competitiveness to meet the needs of its present and future generation. Therefore, technological advancements are necessary in achieving a sustainable city. So before we arrive at our social mission, which was presented by Shafika, we have used the Futures Wheel as a tool to identify the direct and indirect consequences of technological advancement in the city of Penang towards 2030. So from our brainstorming session, we managed to identify 6 main categories of consequences as depicted by the green circles emerging from the center of the diagram as shown by Lee Shine. So I will cover the first 2 points and my partners will cover the remaining 4. Okay, so now I would like to derive your attention to the first green circle titled Outdated Curriculum and Syllabus in Schools and University. All right, so technological advancement definitely can cause rapid changes in technological trends. So in the Penang City, schools and university may have difficulty in keeping up with such trends, specifically in terms of making the appropriate changes to the curriculum of schools and universities to equip the existing students or even future students with the necessary technological knowledge and skills required in a digital age. So a question that we pose from this train of thought is that students, once they graduate, will be less prepared for the next industrial revolution. Okay, so we will be moving counterclockwise, and I would like for you to direct your attention to the second circle on the left-hand side titled Firms Prioritizing Workforce with Advanced Technological Skills. So in this branch, so as Penang City is moving towards a sustainable city, by 2030, more and more businesses, especially the manufacturing industry, they will adopt innovative technologies at scale, therefore giving more emphasis on workforce with advanced technological skills. So the impact that may arise from this is that the skills of some existing local workforce may not be able to fulfill those tech-savvy requirements of their businesses, leading to an increasing rate of unemployment among the local existing workforce, relocation of the local workforce out of the state from Penang to other states to look for the needed job opportunities, and the influx of out of the state workforce with tech savvy skills coming into the Penang City to work for these businesses. So from all of these questions, the question that we pose from this branch of consequences is that can the existing workforce be reskilled, or they are considered obsolete in the new digital era by 2030? So that is for the first 2 points. So I'll pass to Renuka to continue for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. So right now I'll be continuing with the next challenges of the technological advancement. So let's look at the green circle, yeah, the third green circle. Yeah. So barriers to adoption, especially among the residents of Penang, especially senior citizens, those are above 60 and above. So if you could see that everything that we do today actually requires an interaction with the digital innovation. So this elderly group of people actually they encounter challenges which prevents them from using the technology. So it could be due to the limited access to the technology, low technology literacy. Maybe it could be due to greater burden to learn and also unfamiliar with technological tools and also the trends. So which may lead to the resistance of using the digital technologies among the senior citizens. So whereby the senior citizens actually they will lose a connection as a result of the inability to use online tools to connect with the long distance friends and also family.
which may also lead to social exclusion, whereby they will be isolated due to the reduced ability to participate in the normal activities. Because as you can see today, as I mentioned earlier, we are actually today using the technology for all our interactions, for may it be for shopping purposes, for work purposes, to buy food online, to buy groceries, and then even for entertainment and social interaction. So there will be social exclusion of the senior citizens, to reduce the ability to participate in normal activities and also their relationship. And there's also challenges to the senior citizens where they have to, where it will be a challenge for them to live independently in the upcoming technological era. So from there, actually, we have imposed a question. Whether the technological advancement can actually brings negative impact on the well-being of long-term well-being of the senior citizens. Okay, so right now let's move on to the next challenges of the technological advancement. So let's look at the fourth circle, the green circle. So the slow pace in the technological changes will lead to poor drainage and sewage system in Penang. So if you could see today, right, so the drains and rivers which are clogged with trash from human activity, which leads to flood during the intense raining. So it may lead to serious landslide or erosion will occur as water runs into the ground and keep the soil muddy. And when the water runs into the ground during rainstorm, it picks up species from soil and contaminated water sources. So it may actually spread harmful diseases to humans. For example, like typhoid and cholera, and it also destroys the wildlife and marine ecosystem. And as all of us know, Penang is one of the main area of marine ecosystem. So and then what will happen is that it will damage the food chain, loss of property, death, damage, the water supply, and also the infrastructure. Apart from that, slow pace in technological change may also, what will happen is that the partially treated sewage or the decomposed waste into the river or sea may lead to water contamination and again lead to the spreading of harmful diseases, destroy wildlife, marine ecosystem, and there will be aesthetic nuisance due to the unsightliness and unpleasant smell from the polluted river. So from there, actually, there's a question derived, which is like without adapting to the newer technology, for example, like AMBBR, IoT, HPC. So do you think the livelihoods in the city may survive in the future? So let's move on with the next challenges. So I'll pass to my group member.
Thank you, Renuka. Good morning, everyone. I will be explaining the fifth and also the sixth of the order impact from our futures wheel. Okay, the fifth order impact is, as you can see, is a data security and privacy concern. As Internet of Things and also sensor technology use expand, so does the threat level of these securities. And we are also at risk of exposing our personal information. This raises questions from this branch of consequences, which is data security and privacy concern may present a barrier to technical adoptions. And then may I divert your attention to our last point of order impact, which is the sixth. It's about advancement in Penang agricultures, or all we know in as agriculture 4.0, to update our farmers' knowledge on the technologies and how the farmers can make use of the technology in farming. There will be a lot of agriculture training program will be held. It is, of course, to improve in agriculture's process and also management. This also will raise a question with technology. Will it reduce agriculture manual job? Then it will lead to the loss of job. And then, however, there will be some resistance of adoption in new agriculture technology among farmers. Firstly, because to adapt in technology, it involves a lot of capital. Secondly, due to some of the farmers are illiterate in technologies, there will be a knowledge gap between farmers who stick to traditional farming and farmers that is already adapting to technology in farming. If we look at the third order impact, which is in a purple color, there will be a loss of competitive position for both domestically and also internationally. This will raise a question, which is the competitiveness position threatened among Penang farmers. Okay, although we have identified 7 races question, which is all in pink circle, okay, from the future wheels, we have chosen to tackle on enhancing digital literacy among senior population, as having the digital literacy senior as a part of the society is very important in achieving Penang 2030 sustainable cities. I will next pass to Shafika to explain on our stakeholder engagement.
Thank you, Cynthia. Okay, so let's move to stakeholders management. So can you zoom in, Lishan? Yeah. Okay, so based on the future ways that we have built, we have identified the stakeholders to work with in order to realize the sustainable Penang 2030. So from the diagram, the vertical axis represents the influence of the stakeholders from low to high, while the horizontal axis represents the interest of the stakeholders. The stakeholders are being categorized to 4 quadrants based on their level of interest and influence. The first quadrant, as you can see on the top left, is the stakeholders that we need to win over. These stakeholders have high influence in achieving Penang Sustainable City 2030 and have low interest. So they are residents who are civil members of the society, educated and also conservative, senior citizens who are prosperous members of the society, local and international media to help spread the words to the public, and social media influencers to promote sustainable lifestyle in Penang. Let's move on to second quadrant on the bottom left, which are the stakeholders that we need to mobilize because they have low level of interest and influence. In order to increase their interest in achieving Penang Sustainable City 2030, we need to identify and introduce them to what is Penang Sustainable City and how to achieve it. So they are elderly folks with disability and who are the dependents of their family members. They are illiterate groups, and they are traditional farmers, so that we can convince them that Penang Sustainable City will be in their favor by using digital farming as we showed in Future Wheels. And lastly, we need to ensure all citizens of Penang are aware of the Penang Sustainable City and how can they contribute in achieving them. Okay, let's move to the quadrant on the right. So the third quadrant on the top right are the stakeholders that have high influence and high interest. Hence, we need to build engagement with them as they play an important role to realize the Penang Sustainable City. They are investors who are interested in aging society, young and social entrepreneurs, tech-based industry, IT experts, energy suppliers so that they can adhere to sustainable goals, current manufacturers, factories, and companies operating in Penang, Penang state government and policymakers to implement rules and regulation in order to achieve Penang Sustainable City, Penang municipals, and property developers. Last but not least, the fourth quadrant on the bottom right are the stakeholders that we need to engage with as they have high interest. However, they may possess low influence towards the Penang Sustainable City. By engaging with them, they would utilize their high interest to ensure that Penang Sustainable City 2030 is a reality. So they are graduate, young, and millennials entering workforce as they are the future generations who will also be leaders in the future. Second, higher education institutions college to align the education with Penang Sustainable City. Third, scientists, academics, and research institutions to innovate technology. Fourth, proponents of digital farming to encourage and expand digital farming. And last but not least, non-profit organization to work on spreading the awareness to the public. Let's move on to the business model.
Hi,
I
my name
pass
is
to my team member. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chuha. Next, I'm going to present to you the proposed business model for Golden 60. Listen, please zoom in a little bit. Okay, good. So in Malaysia, if you were a mother or family that having young sibling in the house, you might familiar with Buku Merah and also Buku Biru. These are the books to track the infant to toddlers required injection record. So our Golden 60, we wish to use the same concept as we will get the data from the Banci, and also the government, Penang government, to get the data for the target population who currently already age 60 and those approaching its age 60 in 2030. I would like to know this as buku kuning. So this buku kuning will have all the skill sets that our target population need to learn in order to be ready for Penang 2030. For our target population, as we can see, our social enterprise golden 60 will be target for the earlier age, 60 and above. So for this target population, we'll divide them into 4 categories. Category 1 will be educated and digital literacy. Category 2 will be educated and not digital literacy. Category 3, not educated and digital literacy. And category 4 will be not educated and not digital literacy. Category 4 and category 2 will be the main focus for our target population, as we need to spend extra effort to bring them up a level, at least comply with digital literacy in 2030. So we will synergy also with the Kementerian Komunikasi and Multimedia to get them provide some courses to our target population. The courses could be like how to use a smartphone, how to make payment via online banking, and how to make friends in social media, how to communicate via social media, and so on. For our target population, if they wish to further study, we can have Jabatan Kementerian Pendidikan to synergy with our Golden 60 social enterprise, then to help them to get some special courses for their interest, to give them the opportunity to have knowledge advancement. Meanwhile, for our target population who need to still working or back to the society, we will help them to look for job opportunity by preparing them according to the job requirements. For example, the elderly that know how to use typewriter, they might don't know how to use Microsoft Word for data entry. So perhaps we can prepare them, introduce computer to them, teach them and guide them on Microsoft Word so that the candidate can complete the task in a good manner. For category 1 is our target population who are already ready for Penang 2030, because they are those that are highly educated and also they're educated and also with digital literacy. So Golden 60, our social enterprise, might invite them to be the trainer or coach for others. Peer-to-peer teaching is always easier as they rarely have generation gaps. Then in order for Golden 60 to sustain, Golden 60 will organize some classes for those that populate for the market with interest. So the classes, they can organize some classes like baking class, planting, handcraft, and other interest class to attract the market who have the interest to join. We will utilize their skill and talent of our target population as a trainer to teach to the market. From there, we can generate some income from each classes to the target population from the target population conducted. Golden 60 will also set up a co-ops, and this is run by the target population, our elderly who age 60 and above. Golden 60 will synergy with the co-ops, and these co-ops can use the knowledge that they learn and product they produce to sell to the market. From there, these co-ops can self-generate some income. So meanwhile, Golden 60 also encourage all the technology companies to do CSR to Golden 60, so that this company, they can like purchase some product from the social enterprise Golden 60, like some of the bakeries, the cake, the cookies they make for the event, then can generate some income from there. And also they can provide the courses to the target population, enhance the technology skills, and even give some small project for this target population to complete. That's all from me for the business model.
Okay, thank you, Juha. So right now I will be continuing with the social movement. So as we are today moving towards the sustainable city Penang 2030, so one of the main issue that we are focusing today will be the technological advancement challenge, especially among the senior group. So this will be our social movement. So ours is a revolutionary movement. Our main aim here is to actually to improve the well-being and also quality life of the senior citizens. So basically our social movement is actually to promote digital literacy skills among the senior citizens, the 4 categories of the senior citizens which you have mentioned just now. So at the same time, we want to strengthen their participation in various aspects of economic development through job employment, and also improve their social well-being at the same time. So we as Golden 60 and Active 60, we come as a joint force with strong pipeline leaders, which is digital literate expertise, and also with the powerful grassroots support, especially from those NGOs, non-governmental bodies. Alliancing with the government advocacy group will be those non-governmental bodies, those private companies, and then media and also public. So through our social movement, it will actually help in advancing the social and economic justice, changing the lifestyle, changing the culture, and also the way the senior citizens behave through the digital literacy. So how are we going to power our movement is actually through the mobilizing resources, which is we get the financial capital from the government body, from the private companies. We raise fund, and then like Juha mentioned just now, we sell those products, and then also human capitals, which the digital literate expertise, which I mentioned earlier, and then also social capital. We obtain information from the social context, especially from media and also the public. So, and we also, through advocating, solidarity and networking. Solidarity meaning we share knowledge and also build a strong relationship with the elderly people. So, so how are we going to bring this change is through the campaigns, programs or events, such as Age Well, digital literacy program, senior cyber cafes, free information of technologies events, safety support programs, fraud and privacy. And then like Chuha mentioned just now about the Buku Kuning, so which includes everything that a senior citizens can learn about the technological skill. So through designing and implementing a proper training for them, it can actually overcome the digital divide, which reconnects the senior citizens with the family and friends. They gain skills to enhance their quality of life. In a way, it will actually boost their self-confidence, elicit positive attitude, and enhance positive social interaction. So they will actually feel more comfortable and willing to adopt to the technology if proper training or support is given to them. So that's all for my part. So let's move on to social innovation. So I'll pass to Rin.
Thank you, Renuka. Lishan, okay, can you move towards social innovation? Okay, all right. So basically, based on the social movement described just now by Renuka, so we plan for social innovation. That is the way that we plan to meet the digital needs of the senior citizens of Penang. Our social enterprise, which is Golden 60, innovates by developing and organizing digital literacy training based on the concepts of empowerment, as mentioned by Renuka just now, with a collaborative approach. So empowerment in the sense is that by providing trainings that are relevant, that are transferable, that are suitable and applicable in the lives of the senior populations of Penang through creative means to help them gain digital confidence as well as to be digitally inclusive. And what we meant by collaborative approach is that the digital learning process should include teaching and learning in groups, peer-to-peer, as well as possibly having intergenerational learning, which refers to learning of knowledge and skills between two different generations, such as boomers and millennials, for the benefits and enrichment of each other. And at the same time, through our business model, we strive to provide the senior population with opportunities for community engagement. So remember just now, we mentioned about having leisure classes. So besides just learning about digital knowledge from their digital classes, they can also have the opportunities to engage with other social groups. And our business model as well provide the senior population with opportunities for employment after retirement. So in our business model, those senior population will get trained, and if they are good, they can be facilitators for our training classes. So therefore, our programs through collaboration with other social enterprise, government agencies and private businesses, it will serve as a platform to connect the senior population to other social groups in the city of Penang and also help them to give back to the society and earn additional income after retirement in order to improve their quality of life. So that is all from me. So moving on to the next part.
Thanks, Ray. Okay, we have identified 5 social indicators which is related to this age value system here. Okay, the first one is social participants. Okay, under social participants, we can have events and activities that can be attended alone or with a companion of these older people. It's a good information on activities in which we provided, including the details of accessibility of the facilities and transportation options for them. The second one is respect and social inclusion. Okay, usually older people are very visible to the media. So, and also they are really positively without any stereotyping. The third, we have civic participants and employment. Okay, basically at workplaces, we can adapt the needs of these physical challenged people, training in post-retirement options, as which we provided for these seniorities. Next will be communication and information. Okay, under this category, we have public and commercial services, which provide friendly person-to-person service on request, electronic equipment, which has large buttons with big lettering for their convenience. And lastly is community and health services. Okay, this is basically emergency planning, which takes into account and the capacity of the older people, which their health and social services are conveniently located, and this is accessible by means of transport for them. Okay, I'll pass to the next speaker.
Thank you, Punita. Before we come to conclusion, I will be explaining the scalability of our operational business model. Firstly, is scaling up. Our business model showing that we collaborate with number of stakeholders such as Jabatan Perangkaan Malaysia or Department of Statistics Malaysia and also Penang government. This is enable us to know the numbers of the senior citizen of Penang by the year of 2030. So we able and easy for us to reach to them. So beside that, developing collaborative relationship and partnership also allowed us to diffuse our knowledge and meet additional needs of resources. Secondly, for scaling out, can say that our operational business model is flexible and can be extended to nationwide. We can extend our social impact and reaching our larger number of target of population in another state and allow local ownership to adapt and also adopt the business model. Lastly, scaling deep. It will help our target population, which is the aging society, not only enhance their digital literacy, but also improve their well-being where they will not fall out from the society. It also will improve on their family relationship where they can connect to their children and grandchildren who are live in different cities. And by collaborating with Active 60, they can learn various skills and this will help them in job placement. I will pass to my colleague to conclude our presentation.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. So, in conclusion, our group has think that partnership of Active 60 and also Golden 60 is to ensure and provide positive and also long-term social impacts and sustainability to create and also bring awareness to the society, as we have realized that there are a lot of elderlies and also senior citizens who are left behind by the society. So we sincerely hope that our proposed business model will help the society and also the elderly groups in Penang and also in nationwide Malaysia. So thank you for your attention. And that's all from us for our presentation. I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Group AGE 627. Thank you for the discussion on Golden 60 and how a collaborative framework can come about. In fact, when they proposed this on Golden 60, Active 60 is actually a real life enterprise in Penang, but she's not here right now. She's not in here. Active 60 is a social enterprise which is actually helping the senior citizens to come back to the workforce. And so the group has actually interviewed Active 60 before, and is proposing a new social movement where there is civic empowerment for the senior citizens as they move towards being part of Sustainable City 2030. So as we could see that the discussion is actually looking into what could the future of social innovation look like when we bring in digital literacy, when we bring in a particular group of society which may be falling into the category of underprivileged, and they might fall on the sideline. As we all know, our age span is actually increasing as we move forward, and we have a better quality of life, and yet the aging society is actually a strong part of our lives. So thank you for the group, and if there are any questions later on to the group about what they have presented, we will moderate that discussion later on. I will now call upon the second group, Yvonne, Zura, and Janani, to discuss their version of what their social movement is all about. So you have the floor, guys. Anyone who's whenever the group is ready, you can come in.
Can you see my slide?
Yes, we can.
Hi everyone. Is my voice clear?
Your voice is not that clear right now. Who speaks? Is that Yvonne?
Yeah, it's me. Is it better now?
You could increase the volume.
Okay. Testing. Is my voice clear? Can I proceed?
Yes. If you could increase a little bit more.
All right. I think there's a solution, but I need to. Can I just switch off my video? Is that okay? So I can.
That's fine. Absolutely fine.
All right. So I have the mic closer with me. Is this okay?
This is much better. Thank you, Yvonne.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, good day to Dr. Ellisha and all these respected and faithful participants of this webinar sharing. So a moment ago, we have heard this wonderful presentation done by the first group. They have done with such clarity, details, and explanation. Well, for us, I would say it's much more simpler, but we hope the message is quite clear there. So I don't want to waste any more time. Let me just begin by introducing myself. Well, I am Yvonne, and in my group, I only have two other members, whom is Janani and Zura. So for my part here, I'm going to dive straight into the social movement or social cause, or I would like to say the core of this presentation, and make it as easy and as clear as possible for everyone here. So as you can see this, if I have your attention, just look right at the screen here, the center of the screen here. We have this social service organization, which we propose, that's us. That's the three of us. And of course, in the future, if these things is not only just, talk or just words on the paper, if we do make it happen, so of course, this social service organization will grow, and we name this One Digital for All, right, for you. So here, what do we actually do for for this one digital for you is that we try to manage online platform or digital presence, and in all of that we try to impart knowledge and skills. So what is the social movement here? I'm not sure if it's very clear to you. So the picture actually shows this smartphone, right? And from there it grows these greens. So obviously for our social cause or social movement here, it involves technology and it involves the nature. And in our case, it's the farming part, right? So as contrast to the first group just now, their target population is the elderly, okay? Active 60, golden 60, right? So for us, it's the young, okay? Our young ones, so children, okay? For us, the children age 7 to 12, yeah? 7 to 12, and that's our target population. That begs the question, what is the social movement? So if you can look at here, you can see here, we are trying to champion this green tech kit as our social movement. So green, okay, that part represents the farming part, and then technology using digital platforms to inculcate this interest, to share the know-how, as into how to incorporate urban farming. The keyword I would say is urban farming, and of course a targeted audience would be kids, for school kids 7 to 12 years of age. So what actually inspire us? What is this social cause is all about? So as a students of this course, right, social enterprise, we know that in order to move forward as a society or as a nation, there's a lot more in play rather than just focusing on like knowledge about like technology. Everyone has been so molded in this concept or thought that, you know, technology means just learning how to use it. Like what is technology? What is Internet of Things? Like all of that. So, but here, kids, I think for us as a group, we have discussed this, okay? And we feel like kids have been sort of like, pushed to the side. So they are just but vessels of this, like they are not really the essence of this. And I feel that they should be. Yeah, they should be, because they are the future. So how is that? Because the children are so so-called like they are like sheep and lambs, and they just are guided and led by probably policymakers, by the governments, by the nation, by the society, asking them to just go and learn coding skills, or like how to like software skills, all this kind of thing. But they never got the chance to be really exposed to or related, like relating technology with the nature, with appreciating nature, with understanding more other parts of what it means to be a smart community, what it means to be a sustainable communities. I'm not entirely sure that they have been properly exposed to that. So with us, okay, this Green Tech for Kid, we are bringing the kid together. We are a social service group, and we're trying to connect the already established local social enterprise, which is in our case here, Lu Urban Farm. He's been around for quite some years, and he's in fact doing a lot of things for the local communities. But we know for a fact that his focus is not for the kids, for the children, right? So we are trying to bridge the gap, so to say. We are trying to connect the dots. We are trying to rationalize things. We are trying to make like expand his his business and his coverage, so-called, and contribute and relate him to the local communities in a way is trying to do a service to the community. So that is what we're trying to achieve as a social movement, involving school kids, having pulling in parents, pulling in local governments, the education ministry, so to say, and to co-create a program, Green Tech Kid, and to utilize the free available plot of lands in the school compound. Yeah, so from all this, okay, the kids are so engaged, and how are they going to learn all this? Yeah, the kids, I understand all of them are so-called tech savvy, but Are they really though? For them, maybe technology is about, oh, I know how to surf the internet. I know what Facebook is. I know how to go online and surf for information. But the information, is it for like leisure purposes or is it educational purposes? Maybe for them, it's all leisure, for games, for entertainment. So we are trying to redirect that and then show them and maybe shine some lights, like show, expose to this thing, the connection there. So the social impact that we are trying to achieve here would be improving health. So they have this, of course, if you are investing manual labor to plan, to organize urban farm, you know, so they would get the children to be active, right? To be one with the nature, so to say. And then improving knowledge, their knowledge that goes beyond textbook knowledge. They have this hands-on experience, what it's like to be growing something out of nothing, that sense of accomplishment and quality of life. They do know that what is organic food, what is organic vegetables. They know how to appreciate nature, and that follows. And the last social impact would be when we involve children in a project or program like this, they do grow a sense of citizenship. They are part of this society and they matters. So we are trying to empower them. So that's the overall social impact, I would say. And this is definitely in line with the wholesome smart community development that is the Penang 2030, where the government, the local government, is trying to, I would say, broadcast or like educate, like spread the word to citizens of Penang, telling, educating us what is so-called this smart community or sustainable community. So I would like to further highlight this point. Our target population, contrasting with the first group, would be children aged 7 to 12. And what we actually do is bridging the gaps and forming further connection of the social enterprise that is, like I explained, Lu Urban Farm, to the communities. And in a way that I would say is a win-win situation for all, right? So he gains more exposure and footing in the society. And for the kids, they benefit, they can not only be, I would say, the consumer of technology, but also creators of technology. They will start sharing their progress, everything related to their urban farm that has been set up for them through our social service, One Digital for You, in the school compound. And further, in the future, it could be branching out to like all these maybe private institutions, not only involving the governmental side of things. So yeah, and that's I think that's all from me. I would like to invite Janani to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, good morning everyone. I'm Janani here. Can you hear me, doctor?
Yes, yes, we're with you. Thank you.
Can zoom a bit? Zura, can zoom a bit? Okay, so I'll be the first presenter for this group. So I'll be doing my first presentation on the future wheels of Penang 2030. So Penang is a developing city among comparing to other states in Malaysia. Penang has put the effort to change the identity of Penang to a different look to moving forward to Penang 2030. There are few aspects they have made changes to So from the aspect of the aesthetic, they have increased their value of heritage by recreating the old buildings to be continue to use by the younger generation. From the aspect of the global innovations, they have made some creative ways to still continue their Penang as their sustainable city. They have make up the city as their world leader city. So other than that, they have also misuse of the IT. So because of this problem, they have lack of love. The problem is the advancement of using IT, like IT gadgets, phones, and such things have make the a lack of love. And from the societal point of view, the Penang is a smart city to increase their life and for the betterment of living society for after of education. There are more educated citizens around Penang. From the aspect of political, they are still Penang citizens is very democracy and fair decision were made. So there's a still lack of problem. There are more politicians who are still using bribes to move on their parties. And the last point will be in from the environment. They have recreate a lot of environments by reducing the pollution and to make their rivers clear. And also they have made many activities such as Zumba, yogas for the citizenship for improve their healthy life of Penang citizenship. Okay, next presenter. Okay, I will continue on the future wheels of learning 2050. So, according to digital literacy, so there are many differentiation was made in aesthetic part, which make some increment in the
Excuse me, Janani.
down.
Janani, can you increase your volume? We can't hear you. It's too low right now. And we
Okay,
can't really
thank
see
you.
the screen.
Okay, can you hear me, doctor?
Yeah, it's much clearer now, but you need to maintain your voice tone so that it's loud enough. And second, we need to be able to you need to zoom into the screen so that we could see that part of the slide.
Okay, doctor. Okay, I'll be continuing on the digital literacy for Future Wheels 2050. So there are many differentiation was made to aesthetic by implementing increment in the value of heritage. Many young generation has known the value of heritage. Maybe in the future they have known what is the heritage of the Penang. So there are many changes was made for the global innovation to know the value of the heritage, for them to understand by the every citizens and to be maintained for the coming years. So the technology was upgraded for the usage in the interior space, for them to learn and run more in the creative ways, and the technology also become a competitor from comparing to other countries. From the upgradation of the technology, the number of housings is uncountable in future, because there are still lack of housing facilities in Penang. Maybe in future it will be uncountable, and advance of an IT has make an issue which results in respect and love is reduced, and they are giving more importance for their self-importancy. From the innovation and societal movement, it can be a dream smart city for, because it can be more than enough facilities in future for the support in their daily routine of life of every citizen in Penang. So as a part from education, many advanced technologies were made for usage of every individual initiative to upgrade their life in their maturity in daily living activities. So every citizen were empowered with their educations. And from the aspect of creation new party politic, the fair decision has made to equalize usage of the nationality. A problem were created by the politician by forming a new party politic, which created a gap in the filling the democracy. They have also donated money, that means corruption, to overcome what the fault they make to the country. So the last point is here is by creating a better environment, they have modernized their city to reduce the number of pollution for a clear river water, and they also have create a better and quality healthy life to make their citizens to be stay healthy, and by stay healthy and wealthy for upgrade their city's life. That's all for my part.
Okay. Testing.
It's all the way in Penang.
Testing. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, can hear you.
Okay. Firstly, I'm sorry because of any distraction. I need to stop sharing the video due to my line problem. Okay. So I'm Zura from Perak, currently working in manufacturing industry at Purdue, and I will continue on the quadrant mapping of future. If you can see here, we have 4 quadrants. We divide into 4, and this quadrant divides into high and low probability and high and low impact. So we're going to the first one is the pink quadrant. You see, I call it as a brewing storm. This is have a high probability and high impact. This for them giving the high impact because this will changing in lifestyle which will be obsessed with the urban lifestyle. Some maybe work life become imbalanced, which is shift towards productivity at workplace with the high automation. Okay, second one, the blue quadrant named as
Zura,
yeah.
Zura, sorry, we can't really hear you. Maybe you would like to go straight into your business model so that you have a good discussion that will move towards conclusion, because we can't really hear what you say over the other end.
Oh, okay. I go to the business model that we have proposed. Can you see?
Yeah, can you zoom into it? Make it bigger, perhaps?
Is it okay now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a business model that we have proposed as we as an entrepreneur. We propose a complex model. This model is combined with two or more operational models. We will achieve desired impact and objective. Okay, this legend you can see the house one is as represented as we one digital for you social service organization, and this legend is the icon for social enterprise, which is we name it blue urban farming. So this one is for client for the target population, for the social service organization as our target population is children, as school children, and also we target into the teacher as and the parent as the supportive for their children. And inside the social enterprise here, also got target population which is represented, which is low urban farming also have the target population such as community, the residents, the also can help for the other farming newbies for the urban farming. So this is the target population, and the cloud is interesting for the market. Okay, this arrow, the blue arrow is interpret for product flow and the financial flow. Okay, this business also proposed that low urban farming is selling the product to the market and gain the financial flow, and then the financial will flow to the social service organization, which is one digital for you, and we the service social organization will flow the product, our service like the event said, to our students at the school. And the social enterprise and the social service organization are synergized. Okay, so I think thank you. Thank you for your attention, and thank you from us.
Thank you so much, group from ADE 627. Perhaps as we move forward, this is the one of the challenges of doing something that online webinar, where we would have challenge of either the audio or the mic. So apologies for this situation, and thank you to the group who's trying to bet your best and to make this happen. So perhaps I could recap from the discussion just now. Green Tech Kit is a social movement coming from the second group. When we talk about the role of social enterprise, they're actually merging their social movement with the blue urban farming, which is a social enterprise in Penang that actually propagates the idea of urban farming in Penang. So and the idea is to connect young children with as civil society, to be connected with nature. As they become more digital literate, they also understand that they are closer with nature, and this in many ways perhaps will help them nurture the idea of the 21st century learners that everyone is talking about in Malaysia today. And we have today Ms. Jane. Jane is a social enterprise, a social entrepreneur from Penang, and she's the one. She's the founder of Active 60. And thank you, Jane, for coming in. Thank you very much. Perhaps when we discuss later, we'll be able to moderate a discussion with your involvement in that. Thank you so much, Jane, for coming in. I would like at this point to bring in rather than a little bit of change, if you don't mind, Ryan and Amy, if you could go last, and we would ask Ellen to come in, which Ellen also, the timing is quite right, because the second group moves on to a second context of what is important about the future of the society, talking about green tech here as a social movement. The first group was talking about golden 60 as a social movement, and so this is an opportunity actually for Prof. Spector to come in and discuss his perspective of what it means to transcend capitalism and bring in the context of sharing society in the midst of what we just discussed. So, Ellen, whenever you're ready, you're most welcome.
First of all, let me start out by saying good morning to you and good night to me. In Chicago, the temperature is -2 and the snow on the ground. So come to Chicago in the summer. And I have to say I'm quite impressed with the presentation so far. I think it's important in a forum like this to deal both with the specific and the general, because we don't have a plan to implement, including a plan that's highly detailed and well worked out, then it doesn't matter how much philosophy somebody can give about a problem. But on the other hand, if we only deal with the day-to-day, we'll always be scrambling. We'll always be struggling to catch up. You know, there's an old story about a group of villagers who live by a river, and they notice one day somebody is floating down the river struggling. So they go in and they rescue him. Then they notice 2 more people. They go in and they rescue them. Then they notice 4 or 5 more people. And they notice 10 people. So all the villagers are going in, doing everything they can to save people. They work all day and all night. Some people they save, some people they cannot save. And finally, after a day, one of the people comes out of the water and says, "I'm leaving." And the other villager says, "How can you leave these people? They need our help." "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going up the river to see who's throwing these people in the water." So the same thing is true with respect to how we try to deal with these problems. If we just have philosophy, and there are certainly many philosophers who are good people who sit around and drink tea and talk about what a better world we should have. But on the other hand, if we only deal with the practicalities of how to have one good year of crops, what will happen the next year? What will happen the year after that? Because the only thing that's really sustainable is changing the way people understand things, and building their self-confidence. I thought all the presentations were very good. I thought the one that sort of led into mine was when we were talking about the social movement. And the importance of a social movement is that it empowers people. Now that's just a saying, empowering people. What does it actually mean? Well, there's limits to how much you can empower people, given the different political structures that are in place for now. But people can be empowered to have self-confidence. And that's very important. For example, while I teach sociology, I find myself spending a great deal of time teaching mathematics. Because to be honest, if you spent 1 week at a secondary school in the United States, equivalent to the last year before university, you would be shocked in many of those schools at the fairly low level of education that goes on there. Certainly there are some schools that have a lot of competence in education, but there are many students who just don't have education. They're just pushed through the schools and move to the next level and move to the next level with some understanding. But I've noticed my international students from wherever they are often come in much better prepared, often knowing more American history than American students. But in particular, I found myself tutoring math a lot. And what I found out is that the single most important thing to understand about mathematics is that it never lies to you. If you multiply 10 times 5, you'll always get 50. And yet, and still, so many people have such inability to do math, and it's really about their self-confidence. See, and I'm getting to the point in a roundabout way, but self-confidence is what's critical to somebody being able to succeed in their studies. And we know it's true. We know there are students who have a difficult time memorizing some things, but then they know all the words to 25 different songs. So obviously they have the ability to do it, they just don't have the self-confidence. And specifically with teaching mathematics, and this is particularly true of students from lower income backgrounds, it's true of students that come from ethnic minority groups, and it has been true of women in the past, although it's less of a problem now, less of an issue, where people were simply told, well, you're not good at math, and then they believe it. So teaching people self-confidence, not just teaching them it, but engaging in activities that build self-confidence, is really what creates something that can't be swept away by the mightiest typhoon. Because you can knock down a building, but you can't knock down the plans, the science that it took to build that building. And so another building can be built. So if I can go away from my fables and analogies to the practical things we're talking about, I think that being engaged in these projects is very, very important for the immediate sense of providing relief to people, because people do need relief. But it's also very important in the sense that it builds a sense of community and a sense of trust, and it builds a sense of self-confidence. I'm not a great world traveler, but I've been to a number of places: Morocco, India, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Ghana, Zambia, and quite a number of trips, especially though to India. And what I saw described during this seminar is very similar to what I've seen happening in so many other places, usually led by women, by the way, but where there are these projects towards survival, particularly dealing with farming and particularly dealing with education, are put into place by tens of thousands of people all over the world who are trying also to create sustainable communities. But the most important thing to sustain is the knowledge and consciousness of people. You know, we could teach people, for example, we could teach the young people in a village or a town how to understand science, how to understand agriculture, how to understand computers. But then they may move away to the city, which is what people do because they want jobs, and they want a different kind of a life. And then what's left? But when you focus on education, when we have our eyes on two things at the same time, how can we build a practical, and how can we also build a vision, consciousness, and understanding for the future? But these are not really two things. These really are two things that are interrelated to each other, because the practical has to be informed by an understanding that we need to do more than just the immediate. But the theoretical or the broad-based social theory has to be informed by people doing something, because it accomplishes nothing to really explain to people the logic of your position. It doesn't have to do with logic, it has to do with experience. No doubt many of you have questions about what kind of madness overtook the United States in the last 2 weeks. And it really was bizarre. It was just something, well, the pandemic is something I never imagined in my life, and my whole life. I never imagined something like that would happen. And one would think that the United States, with all of its money and all of its technology, would have it under control. But no, it's still not under control. And the reason why it's not under control is related to the same reason why people attempted to basically attack politicians and probably beat or kill some of them. There was no hope they had of taking over the government because, you know, the military was not going to stand with them. But nevertheless, what drove people to these kinds of fanatical behavior? And again, it comes down to that the people, the progressive people, the people who are trying to educate, sometimes spend too much time trying to explain the logic of something, which is very important, but not spending enough time being integrated into the lives of people. So, for example, many of the people who rebelled, if you call it a rebellion, they have networks of friends, they have relationships. It has to do with who they trust. And that's why the projects that were being discussed earlier have a double purpose. Again, the immediate purpose of improving the lives of people, but also the long-term purpose, which is again the most important thing to sustain, the most important clue to a sustainable society, is the consciousness, the understanding that's created by people working together. Because if people work together, they learn to trust each other. Years ago, I had a student once say to me, you explain well. I need you to come and talk to my cousin because you explain it better than I do. And I said, no, you learn these ideas and then you go talk to your cousin. Because why should your cousin trust me? He doesn't know me. I'm just somebody who lives 30 kilometers away that goes to some school that you go to. But without working together on common projects, that consciousness cannot be built. Now, beyond that, and I don't want to get too controversial, but the building of that consciousness not only is needed to create a sense of unity, but is needed to create people's involvement in politics. Now, when I say politics, I don't mean running for office. I mean understanding the broader political trends and understanding that political changes are necessary in every society if we hope to have the economic changes. But the only way that political changes can really happen is if people, again, are conscious and aware. Because if people are not conscious and aware, it's very possible for a leader like Trump or like Putin or even like Xi in China to become all-powerful because they actually do have a certain amount of support. It's funny, you know, the United States is a Christian country. It's not officially a Christian country, but that's basically the dominant religion. And many of the people who support Trump are what we would call fundamentalist Christians. And in the United States, there's a lot of misunderstanding about fundamentalism. And they only talk about fundamentalism in other religions, whether it's Hindu or Islam or various other religions. But there's fundamentalism in the US also. And people talk about Jesus. Jesus wants us to do this. Jesus wants us to do that. So a reporter interviewed one of these very religious people and said to this person, what if Jesus came down and had a disagreement with Trump? Who would you agree with? And the person said, I would agree with Trump. Now, could you imagine? Like, it's completely self-contradictory. But what it means is that people have lost the critical thinking skills. And maybe it's part of the human condition that we want to feel good, so we do things to make us feel good. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. Maybe it's smoking cigarettes or eating too many chips or not exercising. It's okay to do some things to make you feel good, but it is never, ever okay to believe something because it makes you feel good. If you believe something that makes you feel good, that's fine, as long as you understand that that's not the reason why you're believing it. Because as soon as you start attaching yourself to ideas simply because they make you feel comfortable, and you would be uncomfortable to think about other ideas, then you sort of cease to become a full human being, because what you're preoccupied with is your comfort and not with the truth. So this is somewhat of a broader philosophical point, I guess, but it means that we go from the general to the specific, and then from the specific to the general in these types of activities. And neither one is more important than the other. It's like saying, which is more important, your heart or your lungs? Which is more important, your heart or your brain? Well, your brain can't live without your heart. But if your brain is damaged, your heart can't function either. So basically, I haven't really gotten into things like international politics, which is what I really like to talk about. But I'm not sure that that's necessarily appropriate right now, except to say that the world is changing very, very fast. Faster than I ever could have imagined when I was your age. And when things change quickly, some people decide to grab hold and focus and help direct things in a positive way. But some people are so frightened of change that they're able to be manipulated and used by whoever has power in a given society. And again, we could name the countries where this is happening: the Philippines, and Brazil, in Hungary, and Poland, many of the so-called Western democracies, and the US, who Trump barely got pushed out of power. 74 million people did vote for him. And why? Because the world economic situation is very, very fragile. It doesn't look that way because the rich are continuing to get richer, and because they're borrowing money and dropping some raindrops of it down on the rest of us to hide how bad the situation is. But the situation fundamentally is very bad, and a lot of people sense that now. And when people are frightened, they're able to be more manipulated and more used by somebody who appeals to their fear. And that's also why worldwide the issue of ethnic discrimination and religious discrimination is actually very important, because that's what divides people up. It separates us from our allies, from our friends, from people that we need to work together with. So just to bring this back full circle, I thought that the presentations today, I was going to say tonight, but for you it's today. I thought that the presentations today were very interesting to me because they really struck the balance on the one hand of how people can operate on the local level in order to build sustainable economic organizations, institutions, but also in terms of building a social movement that's not simply based on philosophy or reading a book. And by the way, books are important and philosophy is important, but without it also being rooted. A tree with leaves and no roots goes nowhere. Roots go nowhere unless they grow into a tree. So it seems to me that both types of presentations are very important And I tend to talk too long, and sometimes my friend says it takes me an hour to say my name, and I have a simple name. But maybe I'll stop now. Maybe people have some questions. It should be more useful. But I would just, finish off by saying, I guess, the most important thing to sustain is human understanding, human community, human collectivity, human sharing, and human trust in each other. Doesn't mean you trust everybody, but it does mean that you should fundamentally approach most people with the attitude of trust, because that is what creates the structures that no drought and no flood and no volcano and no typhoon can destroy. So that's really what we have to be focused on. That's why we have universities. They're not simply technical institutes, which are important also. It's very important. But universities have a special role also to help people think about things in broader ways. So I'll stop and see if anyone has any questions. No one ever does, by the way.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you so much, Alan, for your thoughtful, provoking discussion on it's very deep, it's very philosophical, and anyone hearing this, you can come from the younger generation, you can come to the current generation with the MBA students here, and you can go up to the older generation, which is my generation and above. It is something that we may relate differently from one aspect. Now, if I'm not mistaken, my nephews are here with me, actually. My sister-in-law and her children are with me. My nephews, they're 11 years old, 8, 11, 12, up to 16, 17 years old. So this is something that resonates with everyone, actually. So hi Adam, hi Amir, hi Aris, if you're there. I think perhaps this is a good moment. Ryan and Amy, if you don't mind, we can take a moment to pause and have a discussion amongst us in terms of what this where we're going with the last one and a half hours or so. And I think if I could actually do some summing up where what we're discussing today is, we started off with discussing about the context of what it means to have the idea of the issues of the world from the context of sustainable cities, where we have two groups presenting in order to have a world that is much more enriching as we move towards 2030. How would two different groups relate to it? One would be the aging society, the other one would be the youth. Two different continuums, if you will. And that is a very important part here about the idea of moving forward with positive change in mind and having an interest towards making a place a better place. And the context that we are bringing here is the context of capitalism. How could capitalism have a role to play in this? Should capitalism be, and since this is very much oriented towards a context of sharing economy and sharing society, and the context of the role of, if you will, the third sector, which is a social enterprise sector. How could a social enterprise play a role that is helping a collaborative framework to come about? Can that come about? So we have two different groups bringing in, the first group was showing a model, if you will, sharing a model about a social enterprise, what it means to integrate different stakeholders in there, civil society, bringing in the social entrepreneur, if you will. Even social entrepreneur here doesn't have to be someone who owns an enterprise. The MBA scholars here are social entrepreneurs in their own way, being employees of organization. We also have the social enterprise who represents a social mission in mind as part of the collaborative program. We have the stakeholders here, which means the aging society as well as the youth, who is a big part of the community, and last but not least, the market, the consumers, and all that put together. The idea being here is, can we have lasting social impact as we move towards the decade, and all this in the context of anticipating a different future. Can we make a difference? Can we change the future? The Futures Wheel was about sharing knowledge about a consequence of first order, second, and third order impact. What does it mean if you move forward? Are there positive and negative impacts towards 10 years from now? That actually is an exercise which is done by a group of society, if you will, the social entrepreneur from USM themselves. And as Alan went in further and discussed with us, I find that this is actually an important part for us all. The idea of understanding what is truth out there and what is comforting for us. And there is two contradictory points of view here, because to be in our comfort zone and not be able to move forward towards a collective change among ourselves, understand that truth needs to be something that we engage. Alan was talking about consciousness, and can we have at the end of the day a collective consciousness about how we can change? Now, if I were to relate back to two groups of societies, one, because we talk about the youth, the other one is the elderly communities. So if you think about the youths, the young ones, they are the ones who's going to hold the world and make the world, they're part of our heritage. And for them, the truths that they hold is something that we want to be able to nurture and help them understand that our view of consciousness and perhaps their view of consciousness is not the same. And we tend to impose our consciousness on the youth. Whereas the aging society, if you will, they are very much experienced about their world themselves. And they actually, and the other spectrums of societies, actually we have experiences to help engage and make a difference. And the role of confidence here, when Ellen was talking about confidence, how confidence play a role, and unless we have confidence and trust in each other, we cannot make a difference. So while knowledge, Ellen was talking about knowledge, while knowledge is important, we go to school, we get school, we go to university, we have all this knowledge, and knowledge will continue to be important for us. But when you get back to the society, it's about making things happen. And how much books tell us how to do anything at theoretical level if we cannot engage and work together and experience that change and see what it means in the local scene that's different from anywhere else, we may not be able to make that change. And so it is not easy to be a social enterprise. It's not easy to be where we are as civil society itself. It's not also easy to be a part of the academia because we have to be able to relate to one another and not make all the assumptions that what we think is the truth may actually not be true as well. So without being too philosophical about it, perhaps I want to be to open for a discussion. Perhaps there are some questions if you want to put forth to Ellen at this point, among the participants here. You please do so. We can have an engagement here. Or if Ellen want to pose questions even to the presenters, please go ahead. Does anyone want to start? Or anyone amongst us?
Hi.
Yeah, sure.
So hi, Prof. Ellen, and thank you, Prof. Ellisha, for organizing this. So my question to Prof. Ellen is regarding the digital farming, because I'm intrigued by this actually. So you were saying that you have been to several countries and how women embracing the farming, right? So how do you see the acceptance of the traditional farmers in regards to this new technology of digital farming? Do you think they will welcome this digital farming, positively, or maybe they are a bit reluctant to accept these new changes? And how can, and if so, they are reluctant, right? How can we, engage with them so that they are becoming more positive towards digital farming in future?
I wasn't quite clear on where the farmers were that you were talking about, or you just mean in general in the non-Western world? I might have misunderstood something. You know, the Zoom sound is not always so perfect. So
Yeah. So I'm talking about digital farming, right? So in like we are introducing digital farming as part of sustainable city, right? So how do you see the traditional farmers are accepting this new technology, and if they are a bit reluctant towards accepting it, right? So how can we ensure and engage with them so that they are more welcoming to this new change or new technology?
again, I think sometimes things take a while. But one thing we don't, you know, it's I have a friend actually who he said something to me a long time ago, and I actually say this to people about once a week. He said there are no unrealistic goals, just unrealistic timelines. And the reality is that people can change quickly if they trust. It doesn't matter how logical a theory is. My mother used to say, if you chew your food 100 times, then you'll get all the nutrients out of it. Of course, she just said that because we have 10 fingers, and so 10 and 10 is 100 and 1,000, whatever. It's not true, but you can convince some people of that because it has a kind of logic to it. And then when it doesn't work, they turn against you. So it really comes down to building relationships, which can take a long time, and giving people self-confidence and telling them they have no reason to be afraid. Now, sometimes they should be concerned about new technology because sometimes new technology will be taken over by large corporations and destroy their small farms. You know, the so-called green revolution, which supposedly increased the ability of agriculture all over the world, including in the non-Western world, also destroyed the livelihoods of millions of farmers because in came, you know, GMO plants, and in came tractors, and in came machines, and in came insecticides and all these things. So it's normal for people to be a little bit mistrustful of these new technological changes, unless it's done, to use the words of one of the earlier speakers, unless it's done in a way to empower people, so that people can have this understanding that no, we're trying to give you power. This is a new tool. If you were using a stone axe and someone gave you a steel axe, that's better. Well, probably you shouldn't be cutting down trees anyway, but that's a separate point. Or somebody gave you a steel shovel instead of one made out of a softer metal. Well, this is a tool. Let's learn how to use this tool together to provide a better world. But all I can do is speak in the general. And I do think we have to acknowledge that the framework of all this is still capitalism. And while capitalism is not a religion, capitalism needs an underpinning ideology to sustain itself. So the ideology that capitalism pushes is that humans are born competitive and selfish and greedy, and therefore we have no choice but to behave that way ourselves. But no amount of preaching or lecturing can convince people that's not true. But what does teach people that's not true is life experience. You know, it's interesting to me in some of the villages I've gone to in different parts, the people there live in all kinds of collective ways. They're not even conscious of it. There's the goat, and you say, whose goat is it? And they say, well, I don't know, the goat belongs to all of us. You know, children call every adult woman in the village is their aunt, whether or not that person is related to the mother or father. And people take care of each other. So we can say that there's a natural impulse for people to fight, but there's also a natural impulse for people to share. But that doesn't come again from someone like me giving a talk. That comes from people working together. And also at some points, people may have to take on political structures. When my daughter was in Ghana for 2 years, she was in the Peace Corps. She understood that the Peace Corps is meant to be an advertisement for American imperialism, but she was determined, nevertheless, to do right by it. And when she was helping them build a school, she had to go head to head against one of the local politicians who was trying to take the money. And she stood up to him and said, "No, you're not doing this. I'm going to report you. You can't do this." And she got all the people in the village to stand up to the chief, as he was called. So the same thing is true locally. It's true nationally. It's true internationally. We do have to think about these political questions because there is a tsunami coming, and that tsunami is the United States and Western Europe on the one side and China on the other. And unfortunately, there's an old fable about when the buffalo come out to have a fight with each other, it is the frogs on the ground that get hurt the most, the ones in the middle. And so places like Malaysia, people have to learn to feel strong and protect themselves and not necessarily get drawn in to these other battles, while at the same time, fighting for democracy and, and building trust. So, long answer to a short question. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Prof. Alan, for your answer.
Thank you, Shafika. Thank you, Alan, for the answer. It's important. The word that I'm gathering from here is that the context of empowerment. Is empowerment something that you have to grab? Is empowerment something that you have to nurture yourselves? And how do we lead in an environment where different paradigms of thinking are coming and influencing how we should be behaving, especially when we're talking about being caught in the middle of other people's fight, if you will. I mean, this is probably an important context here. Reen has a question. Yes, Reen, please come forward, Reen. Yeah, Reen, you have a question? Yes, you raise your hand. Or was it? No. All right, I thought Reen, you had a question. Anyone has a follow-up to that from our discussion? Perhaps a thought on what it means then to, what is a sharing community about then to you? What is sharing economy then to you, after going through 14 weeks of learning about the role of social enterprise, social innovation, and we've come to this culmination. There is a thought you may have about the idea of contradictions in sharing, working together.
I wonder how people have students have actually had experiences that bring forward some of these ideas, or discussions with other people. What do other people say when you talk to them about these ideas? Or have you seen any attempts to put some of these into practice, or people that are opposed to this? Because what are people saying and talking about with respect to these ideas? Do you argue with your parents about them?
Hi, doctor, can you hear my voice?
Yes, Yvonne.
Yeah, so I've just got one question for Prof. Alan, because he's sociology, right? And then from the United States. Is that correct? Wait.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Can you increase your volume, Yvonne?
Yeah, I've just got the question for Prof. Alan. Yeah. So I know that you are a sociology, right? And then you live in the States. So what inspired me from the American politics is especially the new rising star, I would say, AOC, and the Green New Deal that she proposed with her team and all. So what attracts me to Green New Deal is the word green, and I try to find information online and try to understand more, because as we all know that America is like the one country, the one nation that everyone else is just like looks up to. So probably any new so-called policy or programs or anything that the United States government do might have this ripple effects throughout the rest of the world. So just like trying to understand more, what is this green part of it? And then I'm thinking, I saw a lot of comments, and they are all calling it like quote unquote bullshits and radicals. So I'm like, why is it so? It sounds to me like it's kind of good, but I'm not sure how can I or the rest of us here like learn something from it and benefit something from it. Probably can implement in our country, in Malaysia, in Penang, not sure. So probably Prof. Alan, I think you may have some insights, right, into the matter like Green New Deal and what it means to be supporting of it, or what it means to be against it. So yeah, that's my like the only question I have for you.
Well, that's a really important question. And again, it's sometimes like if you pull on a thread that's on a piece of cloth, by the time you get done pulling on it, the whole garment falls apart. And the same thing is true about exploring some of these problems. I mean, the political economic reality is that there are different interest groups. And different interest groups fight for their own interests, while at the same time pretending that they're fighting for the general interest, if that makes any sense. So, for example, there is no question in my mind that if we developed three things, first and foremost and most important is conservation, second is solar power, and third is wind power. Those three things would go a long way towards making the quality of life better for people. I mean, the last time that I was in India, the city I was in had a pollution level a factor of 40 over what was considered dangerous. You couldn't see 30 meters in front of you, and it was not because of humidity, it was just because of dust and smoke. So people die. They die of things like cancer, they die of emphysema, they die from all kinds of things in cities like that. I don't know how bad Kuala Lumpur is, but it's certainly bad. India may be the worst in the world. So then why do people tolerate it? Why do people put up with it? And the answer is because some people make money off of the oil industry, and some people make money off of the coal industry, and some people make money off of the automobile industry, even though buses and trains, especially trains, carry many more people and many more goods for a lot less cost. In the United States, they actually, 100 years ago, they disassembled many of the train lines in order to indirectly force people to have to buy automobiles. And so we have 35,000 people every year die from automobile crashes, and that doesn't count the pollution. So we have a situation where these environmental effects, and I'm not even talking about the seas rising, and I'm sure that's a problem in parts of Malaysia. It's certainly a problem in parts of the United States. New York City had a flood. So it comes down in a way to political questions again, because the technical questions, the technical mysteries are not that hard. Solar power, wind power, and especially conservation, building buildings such that they don't get too hot in the summer and they don't get too cold in the winter, and channeling the water supply. I mean, the situation with fresh water, you know, where they'll dam up a river in order for farmers to grow some crops that are not efficient. So I'm saying it does come down to political issues, and in a way, it's good that in the United States it's becoming more politicized. I mean, and young people, I'm really struck by what's happening with young people in the USA, which is that a lot of them are sort of drifting away. I hear that this is happening in Japan also. Maybe it's happening in the big cities, the Kuala Lumpur, places like that. They're drifting. They don't know what the future is. But there's a certain core of young people that's more determined than ever. They don't care about big cars. They don't care about big houses. They don't care about expensive clothes. They just really want to have a quality of life where they feel like they're not owned by other people. So the specifics of the Green New Deal, I mean, we could look it up. I don't have in my mind right now what all the particular specifics of it are, but I do know that it's based on moving away from coal. Coal may have served a purpose for 50 or 100 years, but it is not efficient. It's not even efficient for the coal miners, many of whom are demanding to keep their jobs. But at the same time, if the system provided quality jobs for them, most of them would be happy to leave the coal industry because it's dangerous. It destroys their health and it destroys their bodies. So I guess I'm moving again in the direction of saying that these issues, these problems, are deeper. You know, we have a saying in America: history talks about what happened, and political science talks about how it happened, and sociology tries to talk about why it's happening. And if we don't take into account the class, how corporations in particular have their way of justifying things by saying this is for the common good when really it's for their own good. If people do not have that kind of consciousness to understand how some of those things are just not true, then we can have all the wonderful plans in the world, but they won't be implemented unless people apply the political pressure. So I don't have a lot of confidence that the new president will do that in the US either. But I do think that the young people, and I saw it last summer when the young people in particular really took to the streets against police misconduct and the murder of that young man in Minneapolis, Minnesota, that the people are waking up, but it has to be channeled. And it has to be channeled not just by marching in the street, but also by working on projects together, because that's where the unity and the trust, that's the glue that holds people together. So I don't know if that's much of an answer. If I had the absolute answer, then I would be elected king of the world and everybody would be happy. But I do think that the answer lies in people becoming smarter. The Green New Deal is very, very important. I don't know that it'll be implemented. I think they'll implement little bits and pieces of it and parts of it here and there. But there are still these big interest groups, especially the oil companies and the coal companies. Now, what is interesting is that the cost of solar power has been dropping. And some of the oil companies are beginning to move in the direction now of trying to develop more solar technology. And the same thing is true with automobiles. They're trying to move in the direction of automobiles. But again, their number one priority is profits. You know, my thought on this is, if a company can make a profit doing the right thing, they will. And if a company can make a profit not doing the right thing, then that's what they'll do. So sometimes they do the right thing, but it's up to us to make sure that that's what's primary. There's a saying, people over profits. And the Green New Deal is urgently important. It's even more important for people in really in South Asia and Southeast Asia, because unless you live in a mountain, you know, a rise in the sea of, even people think a rise in the sea of 4 millimeters doesn't mean much. But when you have a typhoon, those 4 millimeters multiply at itself, and before you know it, you have, you know, a wave of 10 meters destroying cities or flooding them, or getting into the basements of homes and destroying the electricity. So, no, it's a very, very urgent thing now with the environment. I'm not giving you many answers, but let me say one more thing that I always explain to my students, not to frighten you too much. But if you take a piece of ice and you put it in a glass filled with salt water, and you put it in the refrigerator, the ice will, you know, stay solid. If you take it and put it in the sunlight, the ice will melt into the salt water. If you then take that and put that back again in the refrigerator, the ice will not form again, however, because it has now been dissolved into the salt water. And so much of our climate worldwide is dependent on how the winds blow across the ice in the Arctic and the ice in the Antarctic. If there were no humans on Earth, it wouldn't matter if the climate changed. But we built our cities based on the understanding, the expectation that climate would be within a certain limit here and there. And we're already seeing now, whether it's the fires in California and Australia or the floods in other parts of the world, just the result of what's happening. So there is an urgency. And I think, there's an urgency as well. And, the big countries have a major responsibility for this, the US and China in particular, India to some degree also, to move in that direction. But there's resistance from corporations and from politicians who work for the corporations. So, that's a struggle. And I have a friend who says, if it was easy, it would have been done already. So it's, but then again, there's nothing else worth doing than something that's hard to do. So again, not a long general answer to a particular question, but short answer, the Green New Deal would be very, very important. And I don't believe the US, even with a Democrat president, is going to implement a lot of it, but they may implement some of it, particularly if they get some of the corporations to go along with it. In the long run, though, we have to deal with these corporations and confront them sometimes. So anyway, that's about what I could come up with. I don't know, I didn't get into your specific questions about the Green New Deal, but I could split my screen and jump to Google and look up the particularities of it. But it's based on the idea of moving away from coal, which I don't know if you don't have much coal in Malaysia, but my guess is oil is a big issue. And a lot of energy is produced probably from oil. And that's polluting, and it's expensive in the long run, and it's damaging to people. So that's one of the things that has to be dealt with.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you so much for that answer. And I think you have actually pointed to the most important part of this whole event, actually, and that is what is the role of capitalism in all this? I mean, Malaysia being still industrializing nation, we are in the midst of moving towards a digital economy, and we see the strength in digital economy. We're a small nation that wants to make a difference. We want to have want to be a nation that is looking at the equality of the society. We want to look at the progress, economic progress. We look at everything, or we want to seem to try and be a balanced society. And that is, you point to the most important thing is, can we achieve the needs of the society to have that quality of life that we want, but we have the external influences around us, because we are being dominated by the rule of the capitalist game. And I find that interesting that you talk very much, you point to the most important thing, and that is that how corporations justify their existence. And we in the graduate school of business, we teach business. We teach what it means to thrive in the economy. We teach what it means to be productive and efficient. We teach what it means to have winning business model. We teach what it means to be competitive. We teach what it means to be the greatest in the industry, and so much so that we also have our own what we call contradictions in what we do, and so that is an important for all. It's all about searching our soul too, in terms of understanding our role in the society. Each one of us are not just we don't own corporation, we are also employees of a corporation, we are also society or stakeholders that actually have responsibility to tell what is right and what is appropriate. I think there is a question coming from, I think there's a question coming from the head of Nusantara Archipelago, Dr. Rubani.
Just sorry, it's okay. Just a quick question. Yeah. Just a quick and simple question. The question is simple. Maybe the answer is not simple. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. It's a simple question. The general theme of this webinar is sharing economy. Do you think sharing economy will go hand in hand with capitalism, or do you think capitalism as it exists right now will seek to destroy the sharing economy? So sharing economy, is it
well
in harmony with capitalism or is it not? Thank you.
No. I mean, my approach to teaching and to lecturing is to raise questions, not to give answers. You can find answers in books, but to point out the contradiction in all of our thinking in ways that make us dig deeper into ourselves and deeper into the problems around us. So somebody once said, it's better to leave people a little bit hungry than to leave them full when it comes to the giving of knowledge. So I think that capitalism is a stage in world history. I don't think it's just USA. I think it's a stage in world history. For whatever reasons, capitalism emerged as a more efficient way to produce goods than earlier systems. So because of that, it was seductive, and people said, well, let's do this. But the problem is that when profits are married to production and productivity, the boss is profit. That's all. And as long as there's a profit system, the highest loyalty will be to profit. And there have been, historically, there have been two massive experiments to try to build a sharing society on a national basis. Both of them were reversed. The case of the Soviet Union 100 years ago, and the case of China 70 years ago. Both of them were reversed in a sense that now both of those societies have small groups of people. China has almost as many billionaires as the United States, and somehow they call themselves socialist and communist. China is filled with billionaires, and still people that live in the Western regions live in small houses. And of course, the Soviet Union has fell apart. But that doesn't mean that we can't learn from that. You know, somebody can try to climb a mountain, and if they fall off, it doesn't mean it was a mistake, because we can learn from that and move forward. So I think that capitalism as a system, as a stage in world history, is not compatible with human well-being. That's a gentle way of putting it. I think capitalism leads to war. I think capitalism is so preoccupied with profits, and that as capitalism begins to destroy the lives of people, it resorts to two ways to hold on to power. One way is to bribe people to say, look, you know, if you were living 100 years ago before capitalism, you wouldn't even have running water in your house or something like that. So you should love us because we're industrializing. The problem with that is that it becomes clear that they're industrializing for who? You know, when one professor I know said, well, look at all the good the British and the Dutch did when they went into all these other countries and they built all these, modernized it. And I said, no, what they did was they built railroads to go from the rubber plantation to the sea. They didn't build hospitals. They didn't build, you know, things that really meant good things for people. They just modernized to the extent that it benefited them. So, but the second thing capitalism needs to do to sustain itself is to build a culture of selfishness. And that sometimes takes the form, in many places, also of ethnic and religious hostility. You know, in India, discrimination against Muslims is rampant. It's terrible. On the other hand, in in some other countries, we see discrimination against Buddhists, or in other countries, we see discrimination against indigenous religions. So that's another way of diverting the attention of the majority of people away from who's really causing this problem. That's what happened in Washington, D.C. last week. Instead of people saying the corporations are ruining my life, we want our politicians to change, they said, I don't know, they just said we want our God to save us or something. It wasn't even a protest over an issue. It wasn't even like the farmers in India protesting for land. It was just, you know, I'm sad, I'm angry, and I just want somebody to save me. So I think capitalism is not sustainable. I don't know that we can prevent major war. Now I'm going to sound real negative. I don't think we can prevent major war someday, probably between the US and China. But what we do can make a difference in if that's a bigger war or a smaller war. And in particular, capitalism tends to destroy itself, but if we don't have a movement, it will just rebuild itself again. That's what we need to understand. It has to destroy itself. I don't know if you have the game of Monopoly that's played much in Malaysia, but it's a game where eventually you only end up with two people. And that's the process of capitalism. There's no way around that. I'm oversimplifying it. It's not just going to be two companies. But no, I don't believe it's sustainable. And I think that in order for them to try to sustain themselves, they try to create a culture that tells us to give up hope on the rest of humankind and then just go along with it. It's why a woman stays with a man who abuses her, because she feels like, I don't know if I have any choice. It's why they put blinders on a horse. They don't want it to look this way. They don't want it to look that way. So we have to take the blinders off and understand that another world is possible, and not simply feel like we have to go along with what's happening. But we do also have to live in the present. And we do have to build institutions that can create the kind of trust that can then translate itself into, into broader, deeper movements. So I don't know if that answers it, but in one word, no, I don't think capitalism is compatible with human well-being. It's compatible maybe with some humans living comfortable lives, but even they don't benefit. Even the rich people in India don't benefit if they get cancer from their own, from their own oil refineries. So anyway, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's what I got.
Thank you very much, Alan, for that long and insightful answer. I think we actually I'm very grateful to know that our discussion actually is moving towards something very it's actually moving gracefully, I believe, towards something that is important here about the idea about, is capitalism really not compatible? The idea whether selfishness is actually something that we can't change, because capitalism is part and parcel of our Malaysian society, which is why at this moment I would like to bring in Ryan and Amy Blair to share your own experiences and challenges that you have with your own role as a social entrepreneur and what it means to you. After hearing what Alan has just said and answering the questions to our presenters and what our presenters also have brought up, I hope this actually opens up a platform for Ryan and Amy to share your own thoughts. And I do not want to pose a challenge to you, Amy or Ryan, on this one, but more so as a conversation with you about how you feel about how this discussion is moving towards, and how your own experiences and challenges that you have being part of the Malaysian society, as you're coming from someone from America and who's been around with us and working with Malaysian women, and how you feel about what it's like to be a social entrepreneur in Malaysia. So Amy and Ryan, as you will, as how you feel is comfortable and appropriate for you.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you, Professor Allen, for what you shared. I think some of the notes that I was taking, they're very basic here, but I can echo in my experience of actually being an entrepreneur is to know your math. This is that was one of the first topics you started out with, and I'm really thankful for Ryan and his experience at USM, and some of he has his master's from there, an MBA, and that's been extremely helpful in the setting up and execution of our business. And it's extremely important because often as a social entrepreneur, you start a company because of the social side, right? Like you see a problem in a society or an issue that you think you want to be part of a solution. And you start often with like a good intention and a desire to help. And you find out very quickly, if you cannot also run an enterprise, there's two words to this, social and enterprise, right? So if you don't have the skills to be able to run an enterprise, then you actually can't really help very many people in the long run. So I appreciated you sharing that. And also there was something insightful that you said to me as well about working together to build trust. And I'll share a bit of our story of how we started Batik Boutique and kind of where this came from and where we've come from. But I think it's extremely important you said about working together to build trust, especially I think for us as being foreigners living in Malaysia or any country for that matter. It's extremely important to, when you work with anyone and living in like a marginalized community or in poverty or in a certain marginalized social demographic, if you are not from that demographic, you will always be an outsider. So even if we work with women from the B40 community, which is the lowest income bracket in Malaysia, all of whom are living in national standards of poverty. So even if anyone here wants to start a business, helping women in that demographic, you will also probably be an outsider to that unless you were actually living in the B40 income bracket yourself. So there's just building trust is extremely important. People, even though we might think there's something they need and we can help with, if they don't have trust in who you are and in your practices and in what you're trying to accomplish, then I find that you're not going to get very far. So you'll hear in our story that that's an extremely important factor for us, is being on the ground and trying to listen and understand from artisans and women what it actually is they want help with and how they think that it should be done is a really important factor. And then at the end, sort of to the end of your talk, you said, nothing's worth doing that's not hard to do. And I found that, I kind of chuckled inside because that's so true. I think in the era of Instagram and of social media, we're all living these fast lives and we all see a story of this and that happening and we want to be part of it. And we have this fear of missing out if we're not fast enough or, happening. But societal problems and issues didn't become problems overnight. No one wakes up thinking that, oh, I'd like to live in poverty today, or I'd like to not have clean water, or I would like not to have education for my children. Like no one wakes up like looking for this. So these issues don't happen. They didn't become a problem overnight. And you have to understand that the solutions will also not be implemented overnight as well. And genuinely that it is, running Batik Boutique has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And at the same time, the most rewarding. So I think there's a lot of value to that, understanding before you want to become a social entrepreneur that it's a very long road, but when you do see some change and you do see some people who are able to have control and just make their own decisions in their life, that it's also the most rewarding thing that I've ever been a part of. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to share the first part of our session here about just who is Batik Boutique and how did this get started. So Ryan and I are from Texas, from the United States originally. And he had an engineering background and worked a bit in manufacturing and supply chain management. And then I came from a communication background and had done training for tourism and companies. So we had this opportunity. We were newlyweds, been married about a year and a half, had the opportunity to move to Penang. Basically, we thought, why not young, no children, newly married, move on an island in tropical, Southeast Asia? Like, who wouldn't say yes to this opportunity? So we came here quite naive and full of, excitement and wide-eyed and ready for a new opportunity. And I was working in a tourism company based in Penang. That was why we actually lived in Penang. And then Ryan decided, since I was the one working here, it was a good time for him to do his further his studies. And that's when he got enrolled in USM and took his course in an MBA. So that's kind of how it started. I think originally we planned to be here for a few years. We saw this as maybe just like an opportunity, a short-term opportunity to do something different, kind of knowing end of the day, maybe we would just go back and get serious about our adult life or something and move back down the street from one of our parents in Texas or something like that, right? And I think everyone just thought we were on this like extended honeymoon of a wild adventure and like kind of scratching their heads. Every time we spoke to my mom, she would be like, I know, but when are you coming home? So that's now 13 years ago. And they finally did stop asking a few years back when we were coming home. So, and so we sort of stumbled into a few things along the way. When we were in Penang, we loved Malaysia. We loved the culture. I mean, if you lived in Penang and you got to eat amazing food and, people really just were warm and welcoming to us. Ryan was able to take a few Bahasa Malaysia classes for part of his studies at USM. So I decided to follow suit because I thought it'd be cool to learn another language. So all of these things building together, we didn't know were for something in the future. We just thought it was like, oh, that's cool. So we learned Bahasa and he got his MBA and I was making friends and learning about the tourism industry in general because that was my work. And then he had an opportunity to move to Kuala Lumpur and we had our first son at that point and decided, yeah, let's stay for a little bit longer. Let's go to the capital and see, what happens. I was a stay-at-home mom for a couple of years. We ended up having 2 children at that time. And then he was the one working. And along that time, I met a group of women from these PPR flats, the government subsidized housing in KL. And they were my friends and they were mothers and they started teaching me things like how to cook and, they gave me extra Bahasa lessons when they said mine was so bad and all of this. So they helped me know how to be a mother. They taught me, traditional ways. I've had the urut and the, all the things, all the rimpa for everything. I've done all of this with confinements and all, and they've really just welcomed me into their life. And in turn, when you become friends with someone, you realize that it's a very personal, everything's personal now because you have a friendship with them, right? And I began understanding their struggles. A lot of them were single moms, not all, but they were all living, in these cycles of poverty. Some had 3 children, 5 children, 7 children in these 1-bedroom flats and all. So I think though what I realized is that end of the day, though my upbringing was completely different, my education opportunity was different, quite frankly, because of where I was born. I didn't choose that either, right? But this is just the realities that life deals us. I knew though at the end of the day that actually we're at the end, you take off the baju and maybe the type food we eat or something. End of the day, people are people. And I was learning that women are women, mothers are mothers. And actually we all really pretty much want the same things out of life. So I wanted to figure out a way to see if there was any way that we could work together to help one another. So I'm going to share a few things here with you as soon as I figure out how to share my screen. Wait, where's my, hold on, I need a share screen. This one, right? Okay, can you guys see my screen? There. Yeah, so that's the personal intro to our, this how did Batik Boutique get started. So we ended up starting what was at first more of just a charity effort. Ryan was working and I was just kind of on the side helping these ladies out. They came up with the name Batik Boutique They've been a part of this story from the very beginning, and it's a very grassroots level, story that we started. So our mission as a company is to empower artisans in Malaysia. So this is, along the years, what we've established on of what we actually do, because there's a lot of things when you want to have a social enterprise, you realize you cannot solve all the issues, right? So it's like an onion, and you can peel off one layer of a social cause or an issue. There's another one there behind it. So as soon as we were trying to figure out livelihood and income, then it became childcare, then it became medical care, then it became, abuse, then it became like all these different things. And so end of the day, we were asking ourselves, okay, we are not an NGO set up to like handle, all of these problems. Like, what is it that we're going to be about? And we narrowed down to two things. So this is what defines us to this day, and what we continue to say, this is what we will do. And so we are a social enterprise created to disrupt the cycle of poverty in Malaysia. And then we partner with artisans from communities to create fashion and gifts from the traditional fabric of Malaysian batik. We do two things. We provide income opportunity and skills training. So those are the things we offer. We have women who come to us who've never, they've never seen a sewing machine. It's not like they were professional tailors. They actually have never seen a machine. They need to learn skills, and they need to earn money. So the things we promise to them are that we will teach you the skills, and we will also give you sustainable income. So this is where you can see we've worked with over hundreds of artisans now. I mean, of the women in the PPR flats, it's the woman to my left. Her name is Noor, and she's actually one of the first seamstresses we worked with, who's a mother of 7, and we've just seen the most tremendous just change in her life from working with us. So this is I don't know that this is a short video. Maybe we don't wear the same clothes or always eat the same food, but at the end of the day, we're women and we're humans, and we all want the same things in life. I want what's best for my children, and they equally want what's best for their children. I want to have a good life. They equally want a good life. Nama saya Amy Blair. Saya asal dari Amerika Syarikat, dan saya sudah tinggal di Malaysia 10 tahun.
Impian saya seorang ibu mestilah nak tengok anak-anak saya berjaya. Sekarang bila saya dah bekerja, dah ada pendapatan sendiri, sudah ada simpanan sendiri. Sebab saya sekarang dah ada simpanan, alhamdulillah saya sekarang boleh tolong keluarga.
So she would often come to my house on a motorbike late at night with 3 or 4 kids, strapped on her, and be passing me what pouch or what scarf that she made. So Noor is a big inspiration to me. She was actually the catalyst behind why I decided to start the Batik Boutique as a business, because I knew to really have sustainability, to really make a social impact, needed longevity for the livelihood of women.
Dulu sebelum saya tak kerja, suamilah sara kan. Kadang tak cukup sebulan tu makan apa. Sekarang ni saya dah bekerja, kuranglah beban tu. Mula-mula saya ikat kain saja. Lepas tu dia ajak saya datang menjayakan. Saya cubalah.
Ilmu saya boleh bagi kepada orang yang baru ni. Macam kawan saya, Munirah dengan Ana, dia memang kosong, asas dia memang tak ada. Saya ajar dia slow-slow.
She went within a few months' time from having no skill set to becoming the highest earner in our company. She's now teaching her daughter how to sew. And I think what's really happening on a deep level is her daughter is seeing the success of her mother.
Dia tengok saya mesin menjahit, dia pun berkenan juga. Saya belilah dekat dia.
When you impact the life of a mother, that you're impacting the life of the next generation. Batik is sort of like life. There's so many layers to our lives, and yet somehow the complexities work together, even the mistakes. At the end of it all, we're creating something really beautiful, and that's the story of our life.
Sebenarnya Allah ada bagi dekat kita kelebihan masing-masing. Jadi kita boleh gunakan kelebihan yang kita ada tu untuk keluar daripada kemiskinan lah. InsyaAllah satu hari nanti saya ingin ada kedai sendirilah.
So I thought it was good for you, especially as most of you are Malaysians on here, to hear directly from people that we work with. But as you can see, so whereas we started from this like cottage industry, as small women working in their homes and in the flats, we've since expanded. We've created our own sewing center, which is in walking distance from the flat. So now they can come to work at regular hours. And then so far as a company, we've engaged with 200 artisans in Malaysia. We've trained 50 seamstresses, and we've created over 1 million handmade products. So I think it's quite, like when I first set out to do this, I never thought that it was going to, you know, have these kind of numbers to it in terms of what our impact and our, work has been. But that's actually, now I have a much different vision for it and think we're just getting started. So. Just to show you a bit of our products here, we do fashion accessories, bags, totes. So we only work in Malaysian batik, and every batik that we do is actually handcrafted by artisans here locally. We've got 2 boutiques, one in Sri Hartamas and one in Desaru, and we're opening a 3rd one at the Row in KL, God willing, this year. So we also have started selling our products online, and one of the biggest pivots that we had to make last year was during the COVID situation and all of the MCO, we were forced to shut down our boutiques, our office, everything. So we pivoted very quickly to pushing out our online sales. And what's really cool from that is this past year, we're able to ship products made in Malaysia by Malaysians to over 30 countries in the world. So I think that's pretty incredible that there is interest in artisan made, there's interest in shopping with purpose, there's interest in Malaysia batik globally. And so that's something that we're really pushing again on this year, especially as we're not totally sure how much of a local industry we're going to be able to have with the MCO all the time. One of the biggest areas that we stumbled into and that we really push, and Ryan actually leads this part of our company now, is in our corporate sales and development. So he can maybe tell you more about that. But we work with companies both within Malaysia and also all around the world to create customized products for them. Quite a cool thing we did a year ago was with Kotex under Kimberly Clark. We actually redesigned all of their sanitary pad packaging all across Malaysia, which is nothing I ever thought we would be doing. Nor did I ever think we would be making face masks, I'll tell you that. But right now, if you look at our online orders, like this entire weekend, it's pretty much face masks. So, but we've worked with some really cool companies like Starbucks and Grab, and a lot of these companies want to produce something locally. They want to give back to communities, and this is just a win-win way because they can order high quantity, so they produce jobs for people, but they also get something and they get a story as well whenever they work with us. So we've worked with other brands like Sephora and a few subscription box brands based in the US, which is interesting. What we do whenever we work with a corporate that's good is that we create these impact reports that we give them. So like this is a Sephora order we did. And we give this to Sephora afterwards. We tell them, when you place this order with us, this is what impact Sephora helped bring to Malaysia, is that you created this much sewing, how much batik, how many people are employed, and what sustainable development goals that's contributing towards. We also, in our facilities, one of our other income streams is we teach workshops. We think it's important to continue to educate people. We have in the before last year, a lot of the people coming in were from TripAdvisor and Airbnb and a lot of tourists who are genuinely wanting to learn about this cultural heritage in Malaysia. But we also had a lot of Malaysians starting to come in, which is pretty exciting because we realized that a lot of Malaysians didn't even actually know the real process of batik behind. So they've even enjoyed coming and learning, which is kind of cool. And as you can see, we're actually ranked #1 for shopping on TripAdvisor and #2 for workshops, ahead of the Pavilion and KLCC, which is just funny because it's a tiny little store that I wish had the sales that were as high as the Pavilion and KLCC, but not quite yet. And then we've received a handful of different awards of people who've just acknowledged our work. So that's kind of like the history of what we do and where it's come from, a story of friendship. And it's also now our mission and our goal as we expand is actually to become the premier batik brand in the world. And we really think that on the global perspective, that Malaysian batik is wonderful, beautiful, and has a place in the international market as well. So that's what we're hoping, that we can make Malaysia proud, and we can help see your products go across the world and also help people at the same time. So I'll pass my part over to Ryan now.
Thanks, Amy.
I gotta mute first. Wait. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. So it's kind of funny because
Mike must be turned off.
Hi, Ryan or Amy, one of you perhaps want to turn off your mic.
Okay, is that better now?
Or audio.
It's funny because we're on two separate computers, but we're sitting about 2 feet apart.
Yeah. No.
So as Amy kind of mentioned, I was doing one thing on the side, and she was just meeting friends, making relationships, and starting this enterprise, and it just silently grew over the years. And I also learned that I'm actually not an entrepreneur, but she is. So I was trying to do entrepreneur things, which, I did that, but she was better at it than I were in leading it. So now I'm working for her, and that's been a really helpful switch. It's going really well. But I'll talk about, Amy kind of brought you up, just kind of history, but with the arrival of COVID, everything's changed. So I'll talk about that and how we've changed since the last 12 months. First, when we first had the lockdowns in March last year, at first we thought, what are we going to do for our seamstresses who they're relying on us for income, and then we had to close down and they didn't have any income. So for the first 2 weeks, we acted like an NGO in finding, do they have enough food to eat? Let's send them food. And then let's say, okay, well, let's figure out what we can do. And then after a week or two, it kind of dawned on us that we heard reports of doctors sewing PPE kits in their free time. We're like, wait, we can sew. And so the Malaysian government, we applied and they gave us permission to open to first sew PPE. And then we had one of our companies, this is one subscription boxes in the US that are our customers. They ordered 1,500 face masks from us. And so we thought, oh, that's a great idea. There's actually a need for face masks. And so since then we haven't stopped producing face masks, of course. That's become a big product for us. So we pivoted early on, first to do PPE. We did that for a few months, and then to do face masks. And then the next thing we learned to do is we had a plan to push digital marketing, but our online sales were about 1% of our income. And for the last few years, we hadn't really put much focus on it, but now all of a sudden, let's move our plan for digital marketing and see what we can actually do online. Let's move that up to now in April. So we started that, and we went from less than 1% of our sales to online being about 15% of our sales. And that we saw that immediately, that jump immediate. And that's a whole nother realm. And so we hired an agency that specializes in that they can just kind of take that and run with it. And we also started collaborations with other brands. So we worked with other social enterprises that were to do collaborations. So we'd produce for the granola brand Amazing Grace, we produced face masks for them that they gave away with certain purchases to their customers. So it's a gift with purchase. And started doing that, and then we share stories of impact with them, and they share with us, and we reach out to their customers and then to our customers and followers as well. So that's something that's helped as well. We kind of banded together with others. And the other thing we did is we started expanding our impact. So now that we're making masks, and all of a sudden we had reduced capacity at our sewing center because some people didn't want to come into work in the beginning, and there's some restrictions with travel. Some people were, in different states. And so we started working with other tailoring groups. And so we started with refugees and with other groups that they're set up. And we also found that you can't do everything yourself. And so we built our first sewing center together and managed that and trained people. But when we have an excess, like we don't have enough capacity for orders, then we need a way that's easier to ebb and flow with the demand, and we can't keep starting sewing centers because it takes a lot of effort. But we found out there's several other groups that are set up, but they maybe don't have work. And so we found others, another one that was early on that was closed, but because we got orders for PPE kits, then we helped them to open. And we started with other groups. So actually in the last year, we've added a few extra artisan groups that we hadn't had before. So that was also really helpful just for what we can do as a company. It's kind of funny because right before COVID started, we had just joined a scale-up program with Scale Up Malaysia that chose 10 companies to help them that were past startups in the growth stage to help them to grow at a faster rate. So we were the only social enterprise and the only female-led enterprise in this. And so we partnered with them, but we thought, oh no, what are we going to do now that COVID's come and things are a little bit different? But they've actually been really helpful with us in finding these pivots and doing the digital marketing and help us to think about how we can expand. And so in our expansion, we also, Amy mentioned about order with Kimberly-Clark. And so we found that what happened with some of these companies, they'll come to us because of our name of Batik, but then they'll appreciate our customer service, that we're on time, our quality, and the ease of working with us. And so they'll come back to us for repeat orders, but maybe they don't want Batik, they want something else. So over the last couple of years, we've figured out to diversify our product range. So while we focus is on fabric, we make all kinds of other things out of wood. Some things we actually produce overseas, but then we found for like the very large orders that we need to produce overseas because of capacity, how does that impact Malaysia? And so we worked out that, well, for those orders we produce overseas, we're still going to bring back some of the profit from that to do projects in our artisan groups here. And so we found ways to keep our core value of having local impact, even when we have to produce in different places. So that's been really neat to be part of because we're able to provide hundreds of meals during the MCO. We are helping an artisan to rebuild their roofs so they can make batik when it's raining, because right now the roof is falling apart. And we're helping send some kids to school, funding their tuition and their lunches as well. So it's just really just to have this opportunity to do good. And the more that we grow, the more good we can actually do. And we are, of course, an inclusive business. So we have direct impact on our beneficiaries, but then we can do other projects in addition to that. And the other thing we've had to try to do as we're trying to scale is to see what we can standardize. So when I worked with Dr. Ellisha, it was my thesis was on lean manufacturing. And one of the big statutes of lean manufacturers is standardization. So as we're growing, we're trying to figure out how can we standardize. So one thing we've done is we use a quoting software. So we have, it's all the prices and product pictures and everything is easily in the software. So it's easy to give new quotes, for example, and that ties in directly to our accounting software. We built up our website so that when people have questions about what do you offer, what are your prices, they can look directly on the website. It's all there. It's all automatic. So you don't have to create a new email and cut and paste and everything. Chatbots. We started putting a chat box on our website that'll answer some of the basic questions. And I'm surprised at how many chats it automatically sends out. It welcomes people, gives them a code if they sign up for a newsletter. So there's so many different software and automations you can do, and you have to make sure it all kind of ties in together. So that takes some hours to sit down and look at the flow and how everything works. But that's been really helpful to do that. And then anything we can outsource to other people, we do. So we do digital marketing. We also found that when companies produce with us, they might do PR, they might do their own posts about their products. So we can, if they can tag us, we can repost the story. They're doing the branding work for both of us, and it's one less thing that we have to do, and we can help them to do that. And then, we've been hiring people and just finding that our team's really important, and trying to train people that can take responsibility for certain things, and that kind of frees up Amy to and other people, if people have their own responsibilities they can work on, so you don't have to know everything that's happening in the business at one time. People they know what they need to do and then they take care of it. Has been really helpful. So that's kind of what we've learned, and it's been a great journey so far, and we look forward to what we have 2021 and beyond.
Thank you, Amy and Ryan. I'm really inspired by what you have done, and I'm very sure everyone here is also inspired by the greatness of what you're about. And it's actually a good flow from where Ellen was talking about. The idea of capitalism justifying itself. What does it mean? And so, if there is any hope for capitalism, if that I'm always trying to figure out also how do I justify my own existence in this world of being part of graduate school of business, trying to understand what is the role of capitalism in here. And I've always thought that if there is anything meaningful, it will be coming from a collaborative framework where social enterprise can come in and make a difference. And you're sharing with us what you're about, the idea of disrupting poverty and doing a lot more of that. And this is actually part of if I borrow from what Ella was talking about just now, the idea of experience, the idea of building that consciousness of the idea that you can make a difference when you're confident and engaged and you build trust amongst yourself. Perhaps that's the seeds of creative communities coming together and telling ourselves that at the end of the day is how do we have a social consciousness amongst us that from the partnership of everyone in there, especially the companies, if you will, the social enterprise, which is nonetheless still based on profit, but yet a profit motive with a social mission. It may have its faults still, it may not be necessarily perfect, but at least we have a social consciousness amongst us that we have the confidence to perhaps will ourselves to make the change that we need. And yes, a social movement can only come from confidence that you can work together, and that if capitalism can be a positive role in it, it is actually where success stories like what Ryan and Amy Blair has created and want to create even more can come and play a role. I wonder whether this, and how does this ring a bell with everyone else here? What does our group of scholars want to say? You have any comments that you want to share or you want to ask to our speakers here? There's a question coming from our chat box that's coming from my sister-in-law. Amy, Ryan, would you be looking for more women from other groups to join your team of tailors? There you go. Amy, right? This is coming from Lisa Nordin. She works quite a bit with refugees actually from Myanmar and from other countries too. So maybe Amy or Ryan, you want to say about how you want to build on your collaborative platform even more?
Sure. We're always looking for more artisans to work with and more tailors and seamstresses. This past year especially, we started working with a group of Afghan refugees who actually had come from a tailoring background in Afghanistan, but then when they were brought here, they're able to legally live here, but with the MCO and all, have not been able to have income for their families, and they have really good tailoring skills. So if you look now, we just launched our Chinese New Year collection. It's the first time we've ever done a cheongsam, which I'm pretty proud of because it's a batik cheongsam. And we have some men's shirts that we put a motif of the ox like in the batik. So we've merged these two parts of culture. And they were sewn by these Afghan African refugee tailors that we work with. So we've merged the Malaysian artists and the refugees together. So I'd be happy to definitely grow that more. I mean, the more skill we have as a group, the more, the better our designs become, the better our product becomes as well, and the more impact that we make together. So yeah, we're always looking for more groups to work with. I can put my email here actually, if then you want to contact.
Yeah, you can put it in the.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hi, Amy. This is Lisa. Ellisha, Prof. Ellisha, sister-in-law. Yeah. Thanks very much for that. I'm actually working with a set of Rohingya Myanmar refugees in Batu Caves, and there are tailors amongst them. And we've always been looking at ways to help kickstart something for them, but it's not so easy. I think you've gone through that whole big process. So yeah, if it's possible, we probably like to have explore if there are options for them through the Batik Boutique.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Right. There is a question from the floor, from the chat box. Amy, Ryan, could you please share with us if you have any concerns about the future role of social enterprise post COVID-19 pandemic? It's my
Yeah, I mean, social enterprise is increasing all over the world, and it's growing, and so I think that the role is going to increase. With changes in the world right now, people are looking to have whether it's different things that might be more meaning, more change, and yeah, I think it's only going to keep increasing. It's a good opportunity.
Perhaps I find this fascinating when we talk about the sharing economy, and if there's anything that the takeaway that I'm getting from here is that in order for a sharing economy to work, especially in Malaysia, we believe in the spirit of gotong royong. So the gotong royong spirit is a spirit where the community is actually, if you talk about humanity and the role of humanity and collaborating and helping each other, supporting each other, we do not need anyone to tell us how to do anything. When we see a problem arise, we can come forward and help each other without necessarily any mechanism to tell us how to do it, without any external influences telling us how it should be done. And if along the way we have lost it for some reason because of the rules or how we should operate, that is being influenced by just a mixture of things, from capitalism to the role of government, perhaps the role of society, where we have actually evolved to a level where certain paradigms of thinking have. The period of gotong royong in Malaysia has always been with us, and perhaps this is actually quite opportune that when we talk about a social enterprise that is believing in social impact, there is a lot of room for the spirit of gotong royong to come back. And this is the heart of what society is about. So when Ellen was talking about the idea of capitalism being incompatible with humanity, it's actually the Malaysian experience of capitalism. If there is any hope for change, I feel there is room for us to maneuver this around when we think about the spirit of gotong royong. And I think a lot of this, again, if there is a lot of this consciousness towards supporting each other and building the confidence that there is a lot of new ways of thinking that we can work together, and that is perhaps that a lot of it may pivot towards what we call the sharing society. And we have to keep on, perhaps have little classes of this going on, I think, and that is perhaps where this might just move towards something that is positive for Malaysia, if you will. Does anyone would like to comment further on this? Or if Ellen want to say something with regards to our experience, our Malaysian experience, whatever you hear, what we're working with.
I'm going to butt in just are particularly unique. You know, it almost choke on the word capitalist when you talk about artisans. And basically what we're talking about here is an enterprise of artisans where profit is not primary. In other words, this was not some representatives from Columbia Sportswear setting up a sweatshop in some other little country for the purpose of profit. This is along the same lines as, well, actually, I knew a young man in Ghana who was teaching people batik in the communities there, and it was a battle because one of the things that was happening there was that multinational corporations were paying people to use digital cameras to take pictures of the latest designs. And then they were producing them on machines in other countries and then selling them back in the country that created them. But there's a difference. And in the US, there's a movement now during the pandemic that says if you have to go to a restaurant, go to a local one. If you have to shop locally. You don't have to buy from Amazon. You may find a better quality, and also you're doing some good in the world. So I think that, you know, we live in this world, and we have to, and I have to give grades. I don't believe in giving grades the way we do, but I have to give grades. So I do my best within a framework of that to, you know, to teach people. And I think that there's a lot of learning that goes on. I'm sure there are many people that have worked, you know, worked in the various aspects of batik. Well, I'm saying it backwards. It's a tongue twister. Batik, whatever it is. But it's too late at night here for me to say it right. Anyway, I'm sure there were people, for example, women who came out of it who were stronger as a result of it, who had a sense of independence, and they were able to live richer and fuller lives. So I think it's interesting. And what's particularly impressive is that how you're able to grow it, because many of the enterprises that I've seen like this, different parts of the world, didn't combine the expertise. So they remain fairly small in handicraft, and that's fine. But the ability to be able to professionalize it in a way to make it efficient, that's a skill that really needs to be taught, you know, to people in many parts of the world who are trying to do similar things, because it's hard for them to compete with the big guys, but you can do it if you combine quality and meet a demand and also have a strong social consciousness. So it's very impressive to me.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen, for the for your positive comments on the experience on our side of the world. I'm so happy and grateful that we've come to some important junctures here. I think it's very late in the evening. Perhaps Ellen is quite tired there over there itself. It's actually his nap. He's gone over and above his sleeping time. I'm sorry, Ellen. We're keeping you awake.
No, the first time you offered me was something like 3 a.m. So this is a big improvement.
I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking about the time difference when I was
it's all right. 8 p.m. for me is fine. This is very interesting. I'm not at all tired, actually. I'm somewhat energized listening to all the different things people have said, both the presenters as well as comments from the students. I think there's a lot of energy, and I think that one of the worst things that we can do as humans is to give up, is to just say nothing I do makes a difference. And to start out from scratch, two people from Texas, start out from scratch halfway around the world and change the lives of so many people, you know, that should inspire people in the class to find different ways of trying to do the same thing.
Thank you, Alan. I believe if there are no more questions, we could perhaps end the session. Are there any questions coming from the floor? Anyone else who hasn't spoken and you'd like to ask a question or provide some comments? Anyone among the participants? I wonder whether there was earlier on Jane came in. She's from the Enterprise Active System. Maybe she's not here anymore with us at this moment. Anyone from the USM community here? Anyone else? If you have any questions on your mind.
I have if no one else has it.
Okay. There is a question coming from USM here from our Nusantara Archipelago Research Center from Dr. Devani. Perhaps you want to address the floor?
Okay. I'll mute my. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ryan and Amy. Again, very inspiring, very meaningful. Seldom do we see work that is done that will be a great story to pass on to children and the children's children. One of the worst part of our employment is that we get into this this routine of becoming a Lego man, do the follow the rules, don't violate whatever rules, and climb up the corporate ladder. You're doing something very creative, something really meaningful, something that builds trust and empower people. The simple question, since I'm with the Center for Policy Research and International Studies here, the Nusantara Malay Archipelago Research, do you intend to bring this outside Malaysia, right, into Indonesia? I have 3 postgraduate students from Indonesia with me right now. I mean, they said there are a lot of batik artisans in Indonesia. The thing that's most lacking in Indonesia is the packaging, is the branding, is the digitization, is the and probably I carry a batik bag with me. It's done by I bought in Surabaya, and it was a single mother helping persons with disability and basically putting together different patches of used cloth, and they sew them together, and then they sell these bags. Questions. Do you intend to Nusantarize it? Meaning, Nusantara is actually a big piece of space that's between Sumatra up to Malaysia, Brunei, the Philippines. Is a much more older concept than Southeast Asia. So do you plan to go beyond Malaysia, to go, so that's the first question. The second question is, when we talk about social enterprise, if it's too much, then just stop me. The concept of cooperatives, right? Concept of cooperatives, where the producers are also co-owners of various. They are not just workers, but they are also. That's what Alan was talking about. They also have control over the means of production. So, how do you fit this idea of ownership of artisans and ownership of their own product, of their own production processes? How do you integrate that? Do you integrate it at all? So there's those 2 parts, right? Do you plan to Nusantarize it, and do you integrate them into the company in the social enterprise, right? Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Those are great questions. I love batik. I love Indonesian batik as well. I think the skill set and the craftsmanship in Indonesian batik is like world class and like no other. Malaysian batik and Indonesian batik are very distinct as well. I think currently, because we're living here in Malaysia and this is where we've invested our family, we're more focused on working with communities in Malaysia. So again, that could be refugee communities, right? But working with communities in Malaysia to create this deep impact. And currently we still have so many communities here who have this need. And we are really trying to grow our market. That's our focus more is right now is growing our market reach globally. So I said we've shipped last year to 30 countries, which is incredible. You know, people buying these gifts from Malaysia. Logistics becomes an issue when we're producing in multiple countries as well, like getting it here, shipping it out and all of this. And that's a policy issue too, because we've got customs and shipping. And currently the custom charges of Indonesian batik coming into Malaysia are quite high as well. So there's just things related to, there's logistic issues kind of beyond our capacity right now where we don't have a current plan. I'm always happy to help. I do a bit of consulting also for different brands in other countries. So I'm happy to help if there are groups of people, you know, trying to figure out, I've worked with women in Cambodia and India and Thailand in different consulting groups, trying to help them figure out how to commercialize some of their products a bit more for global markets, because I think that's sort of what Professor Allen was even talking about, that's going to be important in how to scale this impact globally. So, but I will never say never. I've learned that for sure, that, you know, I really respect Indonesian batik a lot. And then on the ownership issue, so that's a great question. I don't think there's really one way to do it. And even within Batik Boutique, different artisan groups we work with differently. So we do run an actual sewing center in Kota Damansara in the PPR flats with the group of women that you saw photos of. That is actually sponsored by Batik Boutique Profit. We pay the rental, we pay the staff, the machines, the fit out, the training program, everything. So the women who come to work there are more like employees because it's literally a facility we set up. We have a production manager who trains them. So it is a little bit more like a job, you know, coming to this. Now we have flexible work hours and we pay 40% higher than minimum wage because we have this understanding that a lot of them as moms and women don't have 12-hour days to work in manufacturing, but they still need to earn the same amount of money. So that's where the model we've come up with is we've taken production to them in walking distance from their flat. So that's an extra expense we have. We pay higher wages. We give them training and other benefits. We have bonus structures and we do programs sometimes for their children and all of that. That is literally like the probably most employee kind of structure we have. My production manager actually is a young Malaysian girl who's been with me for about 5 years. And we've actually helped her now. She actually has launched her own company out of our company for one of our production units as well. So that's her, she now has total ownership over what she does there. That's another example. With the batik artists, generally speaking, we partner with already existing batik artists because we realize some of these they're family owned, a lot of time in villages on the East Coast. They're sometimes in their second, third generation of making batik. We find often they have incredible skill sets. Like their skill is just amazing, right? They have the skill of batik. They sometimes lack the design or a marketing experience. So where we partner together with them, more of a collaborative, is that they keep their business full on. I have no ownership of their business, but they more become like suppliers of ours. So they also are not employed by us. So that's another model with that one. So we're all about helping them. Like the guy whose roof we're actually paying for his roof to get rebuilt. He's not my employee. Literally, that's just a give back out of our company. So I want nothing in return from him except to keep making good batik, you know, but he doesn't owe back for this. It's literally just a give back of our company. So we don't have the ownership, if that makes sense, of what he does at all. So we have agreements where, like, if it's our batik, our brand, we produce for other companies.
Tomato sauce வந்து chili sauce ஓட குறவா தான் இருக்கும்.
Yeah. So we don't have one. My long answer says we don't have one way we're doing it. It's based on the community and the artisans that we're working with.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy. Your answers actually respond to the idea of, when we talk about collaborative framework and you want to bring a lasting social impact, there are several approaches that the world of, if you think about the world of production, the world of co-production, if you will, we, as a sharing society, we have our own limits, our own abilities, and yet when we combine our ability with enterprises who believe in sharing, then there is what we call synergy in effort. So you were actually explaining, I'm sure our MBA socialpreneurs here were catching up to the whole idea of context, because that's what you learn in your theories, right? That you were explaining about the employment model where you help employ the women from the play. You were explaining about the entrepreneur support model where you help those women who want to be entrepreneurs themselves, and through knowledge they could go out and do something. You were mentioning about the service subsidization model where you help take their crafts and sell it in the marketplace, so they could have access to continued access to income through your help. And last but not least, also the idea of intermediary model where you bring in, you become the intermediate for those who need their crafts and skills to be marketed. So this is something that we all learn today, guys, in your social enterprise, in real life, what's happening in Batik Boutique. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and perhaps with what you're doing and the idea of Nusantarization, the idea of sharing with the community the local wisdoms that we have here, we can bring it to places out there and show that perhaps, Alan, there's no such thing as benign capitalism, perhaps, but actually there is the context of sharing economy where collaborative platforms can be built in different ways through conscious effort together can come through. So I believe this is something that is needed. Cat just chat in there, empowering, yes, empowering women, Sustainable Development Goals number 5. That's one of the SDG 17 goals out there, and the more women empowered, because women is one of those important stakeholders. Actually, we play a role in making sure the society changes in society, positive change in society can happen or not happen. So this is something very important. The spillover from here, from something we do, the social impact, there are many folds actually when positive effort comes in together. Renuka said it was indeed an insightful and mind-blowing session. I'm really inspired by the good work or effort of Amy. Right? Congratulations, my well wishes for continued success of Batik Boutique. Yes, it is something very inspiring, and I hope we will getting something. Are there any more in the chat box? Any more in the chat box of so far that's what we have. It's 1:30. Maybe we'll call it the end of the session. Sorry, I can't hear you. We will call it at the end of the session. Thank you. I will recap by saying that we started out by talking about a presentation on the theory or context of what social innovation is about through looking at different models of experience where theoretically some social enterprise can come together and work together. How will they work through a collaborative platform about digital literacy in creative aging society and youth empowerment, and the idea of social movement is something that we want to inspire. And we went on to discuss about the context of what actually the underpinning of social movement, which Alan is talking about. At the end of the day, while we talk about technical knowledge, we need to go back to the ground by looking at at the end of the day, if to inspire us to move forward for change, we need to be able to have that consciousness of the confidence and trust in the ability to work together And while we might be able to we face hardships, is about the idea of knowing that anything worth changing, we need to change, and it's worth working together. And we finally end it with a discussion by Amy and Ryan about the truth out there. In reality, through evidence, we can work together, we can make a difference. And the Malaysian experience of making a difference can work because we believe in the gotong royong spirit. When we come from a community, come together and support each other, and that's when we take off all barriers and work together. And I believe that in our effort together here, perhaps the idea of decolonizing our mental frames of what greed is about, selfishness is about, benefiting oneself is about, breaking that barriers and understanding that the Nusantara way of life actually has no barriers. It's not. It's about putting a barrier on our minds, but it's about working together, coming together, and supporting each other. And I hope this perhaps will inspire us to move towards that way. So I thank you so much for the session with everyone. May I, before we end, ask everyone to open, switch on your image, so that we can do have a photo session with everyone. If you could. Right, in 10 seconds we'll do so. Right, thank you, Yufat, for coming in. Thank you, the speakers, for your very insightful sharing. Thank you, our discussants, the MBA scholars, for being part of this the whole time, and our DBA scholars here, Kat, Clementine, I think Yufat is here, and it is very helpful to know that we are in it together and throughout the whole session. And my big thanks to our committee here from Nusantara Purdue Center for helping organizers. Thank you so much for all your participation. And take a photo session now. And perhaps a thumbs up from everyone.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3. There you go. All right.
Right.
Thank you so much, all. Thank you, everyone, for coming here. And I wish you all a good day ahead, a weekend. And thank you again, Ellen. Have a good night's sleep, Ellen. And thank you, Amy, Ryan. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Stay well.
Thanks.
And
Sanitize.
and stay sanitized. Yes. Thank you again. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you.
Stay safe and strong.
It's on YouTube, by the way. Can you
It's on YouTube. The link is on YouTube.
You can share the link.
We'll share the link later on. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Ellen. Take care.
That's the link.
Yeah, there's the link there. If you want to take it, that's the link.
Yeah.
And all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night, Ellen.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Where's that? It's in Hong Kong, yeah.
Bye.
Kipas. Oh, itu Commerce.
Hope to see you one day, Ellen, in Malaysia, yeah?